Greetings, everyone. And welcome to an abracadabralicious episode of Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party.
It's just now, abracadabra! Behold! Yes!
Presto!
Hocus pocus and all that other stuff.
Monster Party.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're back. You know it.
We
You know
are
it.
back.
And, oh my.
Oh, this is going to be great.
We got a great episode. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. And before we go any further, sir, who are you?
I am Matt Weinhold.
I am SHAWN Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James GONIS.
And this episode, oh my, talk about a gigantic topic
Yes.
that we are going to cover every single aspect of.
Yep.
Starting now.
And that topic is
What is it?
magic.
Magic! It's gotta be magic!
So
Magical.
this is an entire episode about the Anthony Hopkins ventriloquist
It is.
film?
Yes, we're going to
Wait, wait,
dissect
All
that
right,
movie.
let's go. Do it.
Yeah.
Well, there is some
And Margaret.
Well,
Yeah,
okay.
don't even say it,
but
Margaret.
I am a huge fan of magic.
Me too. I think we can all say that we are fans of magic. James?
Absolutely.
I see a little bit of hesitation. Like,
Oh, no, no,
it's
no.
not real. So, but
No,
it is.
I'm not one of those skeptics.
Okay,
So
okay.
magic, illusions, we love it. But how can we do this episode?
There's only one way that we can do this episode, and that's with the perfect guest. Now, rarely do I use the phrase talent dynamo,
Ooh.
but it applies here because our guest for this episode is a musician, an actor, a model, an auctioneer,
What?
and a magician
A
supreme.
magician! We've got a real live magician!
Award-winning magician, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Zabrecky.
Rob Zabrecky!
Welcome.
Presto! He is here!
Is here.
Oh my gosh, what are you
He
conjuring
appeared
up
in a
here?
cardboard puff of smoke.
And a full stomach of Chinese food.
That's right. We treat you right around here.
Hey man, that's the way we roll here.
That's
on
our
Monster
magic.
Party. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you
this
for
really is an
letting me
honor.
Join you tonight. Yeah, thanks for it's an honor for me too. Thanks for letting me be here.
Because I'm a fan from way back. I mean, Possum Dixon.
Wait,
did
Possum Dixon?
Possum Dixon is the band that Rob Zabrecky, you created this with a bunch of your friends, and you did 3 albums. You did a gazillion
It
shows.
was like in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yep, late '80s, early '90s, right here in LA.
Right here in LA. And God, I love that band.
Thank you.
I love that band. And so that's already got my teats tinkling.
Well, what kind of music is it? Is it kind of is it like,
It's like
you know,
pop,
jazz?
pop rock.
Alt
like-
rock. How would you
Yeah.
describe it, Rob?
Was it spandex and
No, there was no. I don't remember a lot of spandex, Rob.
We didn't really go spandex style. I would say we were rock. You know, the earlier shows were more kind of art rock, and then we just sort of became a rock band. I would say towards the end, and put out 3 albums in the '90s. Broke up in '98, and fell into magic and acting from
But
there.
that's crazy to me because, like, now you've got this band that made some noise. You were on TV shows, and you were a critically acclaimed band. But the fact that you would then go from something that, like, okay, music seemed to be very successful in my life. You know, most people would say, well, I'm going to go on and continue that road. And so where did magic come into the picture?
Well, magic came into the picture in around '96, completely to my surprise. I had no interest in magic. I didn't care about
Really?
it. I didn't think about it, and I didn't really know what it was. But having had this band for 8 years and definitely had some ups and downs. I mean, it was a band I started when I was 21. Got a kind of a record deal going around '93.
Interscope Records.
Interscope
yeah.
Records. Toured the U.S. many times, went to Europe, did all kinds of fun shows and things like that. And as the band was kind of on a slight decline, let's just say, I was on tour and we were in Baltimore, Maryland, of all places. It's the summer.
We know it well.
You know Baltimore?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah. So we're there and we load our gear in a club. It's a nightclub. It's in the afternoon. And I am a big fan of John Waters.
As we all
Imagine
are.
you yes.
We've worked with him a number of times.
Oh, man.
For
I bet-
Playboy. Yeah.
Of course.
Greatest guy.
And the greatest movies, So
Yes.
I led my gear in the club, and I'm like, I want to go see if I can find some locations where he filmed Pink Flamingos, Female Trouble,
Nice.
Polyester, the like. So I'm walking around downtown Baltimore in this hot afternoon, and it's pretty hot. It's definitely like 100 degrees, and it's muggy. So I go, I got to duck in someplace to cool off for just 5 minutes. And I look around, and there's like a bakery and a shoe shop and a post office, and then there's an air conditioning down the street. What's that place? It's a magic shop. Oh no. Okay, well, go in there. I'll just duck in and just
Come in.
Yeah. It was hardly. It was empty. There was no one in the
okay.
place. Kenzo's Yogi Magic Mart.
It's hot out here. It's cool in here.
Exactly.
Kenji's.
Kenzo's Yogi Magic Mart. That's
Wow.
what the sign
Nice.
outside said. So I walked in just to kind of cool off and literally to just dry my body off so I could go and find the location where Divine ate dog shit. That was my dream.
The first thing I would do.
that was
Sure,
right.
yeah.
Truly, I kid you not, that was my priority that day. Like I wanted to know
That's awesome.
the location. That would make me really, really happy. But instead, I walk in this magic shop, and there's stenciled rabbits and little apparatus in a straitjacket and glass counters, and there's a man sitting there, and he looks bored, and I'm standing there feeling awkward because now I've cooled off, and I felt a little guilty. So I said to him, "Do you have a trick that I could perform on stage at a nightclub for a couple hundred people?" And he looked at me and said, "What about this?" And he removed a small handkerchief from his pocket, a little silk handkerchief, and he put it in his fist. And he went like this, and the thing vanished. And two things happened. I was absolutely astonished that this feat had just happened right before my very eyes, one. And two, that it was for sale for $10. So I could buy this and perform it that night. So naturally, I was like forked over the money. I got the apparatus and this handkerchief, and I shoved it in my pocket. He showed me the method on how to perform the trick. So that night, it's sitting in my front pocket. We go on stage. 3 songs into our set, our guitar player breaks a string, and I remembered the thing in my pocket, right? I'm like, wow. So don't ask me how. This is the magic part of the story, is that I say to someone in the audience, I grab the mic and I say, hey, does anybody out there have a wrapped condom? Because I know that the apparatus, the magical apparatus, can vanish not only a silk handkerchief, but a condom.
No.
Because they're similar, they're small inside.
Right.
So this is where my spidey sense kicks in. And guess what?
What?
Somebody threw one on stage.
No.
And I unwrapped it very carefully, and I put it inside, and I very crudely and poorly vanished that thing. Boom. And the audience went crazy. So that was my first magic trick. And you gotta know that I have no interest in
Birth control.
Yeah. Still no kids. Yeah. Still into that. But I was a kid who was not into magic at all. I was not a performer as a kid. I liked Cheap Trick. I liked Kiss. Those are I was a music person.
Sure.
Okay.
That was my thing, and that's all I ever wanted to do was play music. So I was doing that with my life. I kind of achieved that goal or whatever. So next night we're in New York City, and I'm like, guys, whatever you do, third song, tune up, do whatever you want. I'm doing that thing again. And they're like, yeah, of course, it was funny. Great. Yeah. So I do it, and it's a hit again. So the tour's over in New York, and we drive back 3,000 miles to LA. And that's, but this is, 5-6 day drive. We're in a van towing a big, bunch of gear and stuff.
Right.
So we have a few stops in big cities. And every time we'd pull into a big city and stop for the night, I'd pull out a Yellow Pages, pre-internet, of course. Magic shop. Okay. Jump in a taxi. Go. What do you have? What else is in here? Are there more tricks I can perform? Is there something else here for me? That kind of thing. And by the time I got back to LA, I had bought a few tricks. And then something really cool happened. My girlfriend, who is now my wife, managed a club on the Sunset Strip called the Viper Room.
Oh,
yeah.
Very famous.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, little nightclub there. And she says, hey, I have a pass to go to this place, the Magic Castle. And people in LA get passes to go there because it's kind of an insider thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an exclusive.
Very exclusive, as the
through
Viper
references.
Room kind of was in its own weird way. And so she's like, you got to cobble together a suit, which I didn't have at the time. So I get some ill-fitting suit together, and she looks amazing. And we go up there, and we step before this bookcase and say some magic words and walk in that club. And I kid you not, just like hearing, I Want You to Want Me when I was a little kid for the first time, or the Carpenters or something. It hit me so heavy. I just was astonished. Like I'm looking at these turn of the century lithographs and these caricatures of these magicians from bygone eras, and people like Jonathan Pendragon are up on the wall. We talked a little bit. So there's a little bit of everything. There's
Yeah.
It's all over the place. But you see, but I also immediately caught that magic was locked. This was 95, 96, but I'm thinking magic is stuck in the 70s. Like really the aesthetic of it hadn't. It looked. It was very purple jumpsuits and mullets.
Yeah.
Kind of. That was where it was living. And then you had your Houdinis and your Carters and your Chung Ling Su's and Thurston.
Doug Hennings.
And Doug Henning. And that's kind of was a cutoff.
Who brought a little bit of denim. You weren't expecting that.
No, you weren't. Denim and transcendental meditation.
Yes,
That's two big contributions. But yes, you're absolutely right. Denim. It's so funny you say that. I don't want to transgress. But
feel free. We do it all the time.
Okay. Well, there's a Doug Henning documentary that's coming out in a couple of. It'll come out probably next year, maybe. After.
I love Doug Henning.
Well, get ready for 2 hours of it. And
That's awesome.
All right, that's too much.
And they asked,
No, that is not enough, sir. I have stories here.
Well, all I can tell you is they said, "What did Doug Henning contribute to magic?" And guess what? One of my answers was denim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that didn't really fit into the any paradigm of magic until he brought a lot. The mustache.
Well,
and also
his look, his whole look, the long hair, the mustache,
like rainbow suspenders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also,
yes, but
there
then,
was some. Yeah.
But also that he was so pleasant.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like family friendly.
Because there's always that, that thing also with the magician where they would either try to be mysterious or very high class.
Yeah.
And with Doug Henning, it was like, hi.
Yes. He was
the guy
he was on the cover of Dynamite magazine.
I'm
That's
from Venice
kid.
Beach, and I'm going to do some tricks.
And he was pleasant and playful and
those
friendly
teeth.
and
Rainbows and unicorns. So yeah, he brought in that whole 70s
hippies-ish kind of.
Yeah, really, he really did. And there was a big smile on his face the whole time. Every trick was done with kindness. There was no darkness to his performances, and so
which I prefer personally.
Well, of course, I love the happiness in the jump.
I know you do.
Yeah. No, of course he was
Mr. Dark Man over there.
He was a great artist, Doug Henning, I would say, and he brought a lot to the table. Anyhow, so that's what's going on at the Magic Castle. Is does not feel like things have been particularly updated, except for really nothing. That was kind of where it felt trapped. So that was it. I became obsessed with the idea that I could become a magician. I had this conceit that I could actually do that because I was a performer, and I thought, well, maybe if I piece together an act slowly but surely, I can be a magician. So that's really that was the beginning of my magic journey.
And now seeing all these traditional type acts, and I'm sure that was the thing that really fueled what we see when we see you now. I mean, one thing I really enjoy, there's so many things about your act that I enjoy. There's the theater element of it, the comedy, which that's something. It's interesting because we were watching the Penn and Teller thing that you guys did, and they point out the fact that you're doing this mentalist routine and making it funny and actually pulling it off. And that's the thing, is that when you saw gags in a magic act in the past, they're always kind of cornball or they were like the same joke that every other magician did.
Right.
And then you started to get people like, the amazing Jonathan, who would bring an element of darkness and violence to it. And Penn and Teller, of course.
Yeah, that was kind of like that paradigm shift, right?
Yeah.
Around like the late 90s, maybe, I guess, kind of.
Absolutely.
I mean,
well, Penn and Teller were definitely earlier than that, but they did introduce, I would say, great. They were the shift. That was a huge change when they came on to the...
I remember people were kind of pissed off at Penn and Teller, too.
Because they would reveal gags.
Yeah.
Right? They
but
reveal
not without a twist that left you wondering and feeling in some ways mystified and spellbound in some way. So they weren't doing it just for the sake of doing it. Yeah. They were lowering the veil, but then keeping it up in a really cool, interesting way. And in my opinion, are still doing that.
And I would think that magic is great because now, did you ever do stand-up?
No.
Which surprises me because you're so funny on stage, and that it seems like magic is such a great thing that kind of lends itself to adding some humor. And especially all the banter that you do with people in the audience, you know. I mean, that's a lot of comics, that's their stock and trade. And how you do it, and it's always like, you know, there's the line that you think is going to come out of you and it's a left turn, which I just love.
Now, how long did it take you to really master the technique to a point where, like, you know, you're really doing these
Yeah,
shows
you're competent,
you're at
know what you're
Magic
doing.
Castle? I mean, that's a pretty, you know, dramatic shift. Like you said, it's a career change. I
It's
mean,
not easy
it's
to
not
do
like,
those
I
tricks.
like to
Believe
just
me,
go,
I've tried.
I'm just going to be a magician now. I mean, that's, you know, how hard was that?
It was very, very hard, and I was not a fish to water, and I failed a lot, and first I was laughed out of music by people that were the musicians that were cool. Musicians are a different breed than magicians, first of all, especially in LA at that particular time. So my first few magic shows were disastrous because we were performing on music venues with bands, and we got really good shows because, you know, I got good gigs because I knew a lot of musicians. So I was performing on these benefits and things like that, and literally got laughed at. Like, what is Zabrecky doing? That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So I got kind of laughed at in music, first of all, and then in magic I wasn't good. It was not natural for me. Like, magic is hard, acting is hard, comedy is hard, and so to put all of those things together took a major undertaking. But I had a burning desire to do it, and because I had kind of hit the wall with music, and I thought, I can't do music anymore. For a lot of reasons, it wasn't working for me. So I hung it up. And it's funny because I said, at 29, I said, music is a young man's game. And some of my friends still tried me for that. Yeah, I thought, you know what, I'm getting old now. I got to find something else. And magic seems, you know, it's a performing art, and I can do this for longer. Little did I know I'd still be doing all these years later. But it was really hard for me. It was a really, really hard thing because the Magic Castle in particular, there's world-class performers there, and no one really wants you to succeed. When a guy like me comes in, like, what's this guy doing?
Right.
And so as I was finding my way in the art, it was a long, difficult road that I very much look back fondly on because there was so much kind of almost adversity in what I was doing.
Sure.
And I had to like fight for my little space in the sandbox. But once I found it, I think I got the respect of, you know, the magic community. And then people went at one point, oh, he's got his own thing going.
So between music and magic, you were talking about there was a lot of competition, and there was maybe some weird feelings about you initially when it came to the magic community. Would you compare music to that in the sense of, do you think they're both as competitive or welcoming or not as welcoming?
Well, I never said the word competitive.
All right. That was my fault, and I take that back.
No. But I say that because most of the success that I have is because I'm not competitive with my peers, and then I try to create a thing that's mine.
Yes.
Right.
That I don't have to compete, and then I'm able to work with others in my field because I'm not doing their thing and they're not doing mine. So therefore we can jive and kind of.
I guess I was just thinking of maybe the other people like that. You know, you might not be that, but I know when it comes to at least comics and actors, there's all kinds of competition, whether you're coming from that point or not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, early on, like, you know, so it's 1989, I start my band, POSSOM DIXON, and nobody wanted that. The world did not want a band that was, you know, what we sounded like at that point. We were on our own little island, and it was unusual and weird and kind of on the performance art end of things and very new wavy kind of punk in its ethos, and there was nothing really like it, and we weren't welcomed into the music world at all. But eventually we found our little space, and we excelled in that. Same with magic, because that was the exact same thing. So it was one of those things where it's just time. I worked on it for a long time, and as a result of that, just got better and became not. You know,
and is it like I assume that like being actually accepted into the Magic Castle, the ranks, is there like how does that work? I mean, is it like a tough thing to get into? I would assume.
Yeah, so you go to the Magic Castle, you see these magicians, and now you start to practice.
How do you even start?
How do how do you get accepted to the Magic Castle? You got
There's
pretty
some kind of-
great
How do you
magicians
apply?
in there.
There's
Yeah.
some kind of blood right. You have to do something.
Well, you start out
A
by
gauntlet?
you start out by getting a handful of rejection letters, which I have at home in a folder somewhere, saying your act is not. We don't need an act with full of death and destruction. 'Cause that's what
Okay,
the
that's
act was.
so wrong.
Yeah, that was the mentality of the club at that point. It was
Really?
like they didn't want that. Yeah, so a lot of failure really was the beginning. But then what you do is you audition, and that's what I did. You put together an act,
Okay.
an 18 to 20 minute act that you can do in its entirety that has some peaks and valleys, some originality to it, maybe a little comedy. And if you do have an act like that, you likely can work there. Now it's very hard because there's so many more magicians. The club's so much more popular.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Sure,
really
sure.
difficult to become a member and become a performing member.
This audition, this was in front of people, right?
I did a live audition, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm,
because
I
that's
did.
the way to do it, right? I mean, that's the
Absolutely.
only way you can really tell. That's what I always hated about like Last Comic Standing, where you're standing in front of three people who
Yeah.
are maybe a tad judgmental anyway.
Maybe a tad. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so it's a difficult thing. Magic Castle is a hard nut to crack. If you have a dream of being a magician working at the Magic Castle, I think you better be prepared for like a 5-year plan, maybe something like that.
Right.
You know, that's about what it took me. I would say it's about 5 years. You know, but I'll tell you what got me in there at the end of the day was the love of horror movies, love of unusual music, all these things that had nothing to do with the magic tricks, but the way that I infused them and presented them was a byproduct of all this stuff.
Because your persona is very unique and it's kind of a dark, kind of Charles Adams kind of like character.
Lovable
which is great.
Undertaker.
It's a character, and which is really unique and really cool.
Thank you. It's a character that sees the beauty in the darkness, and it's what I call the Herman Munster theory, where I'm normal and all of you are batshit crazy.
Right.
And if you put on those lens, you see the world through that lens, it's very easy to write for that character. It's very easy to
Right.
find material for that character, and it all works. And that's my thing. And like, there's nobody else that's doing that, and I feel really comfortable, knowing that I've got my little space in magic. That
You do a thing in your act where you just have somebody just hold a box, and that's it. And now I've seen you do stuff with the box on different occasions, but just the times where you just have somebody just hold this box, and every once in a while you'll check in with them and go, if it's leaking or if you hear any clawing, don't worry about it. And that's just great. That's just
watching that act
Yeah.
for the first time. I mean, he actually freaked me out. And like,
Good.
oh my god, what's in the box? I've seen movies that have freaky things in the boxes, and so
You don't wanna know what's in the box. Yeah.
No, but that's kind of like the start of your show. What's great is you're a little creepy, a little off, a little
Intense.
yeah, and I don't. Where's this guy going? I've never seen anything like your show, and I loved. I was freaked out and I was laughing. I had so much fun.
Thank you.
It's such a wonderful,
that's
wonderful
really nice to
act.
hear. I mean, it's and yeah, the idea that I don't reveal the box with some big magic trick at the end, which I very easily could do. And
Sure.
it's the obvious choice to do that. It made more sense in a Hitchcock way.
right. Yes.
To just like, the idea for me is that I'm just this guy who's walking down the street and there's an open door. And so I go and I walk in and I say, oh, well, here, you just hold my box. I'll go do something up here. And at the end, I'm going to take my box and I have to go into my next thing. I have
that's
Martians to talk to and stuff or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, fly to the moon. So I can't really, do. So that's sort of one of the ideas that I have with it. That's the box kind of concept, is that we don't ever really know what's in there for good reason.
Did you grow up kind of like a monster kid? I mean, you grew up like liking horror films and sci-fi, and
Not really. I mean, I would say I was an average, horror fan. I was definitely Mad Magazine. It would have, that would have been
Right,
my
right.
thing that I went to over a Famous Monsters thing. Although, I mean, my favorite movies were, definitely like you get the Carrie, the Amityville Horror, Exorcist, the classics, I guess,
Sure,
when you're a kid
sure.
growing up in Burbank in the 70s. So it was always like, the favored genre. But It wasn't probably until my teens that I started getting more attracted to, vintage horror and stuff like that. And then I just dove into getting the famous monsters magazines and stuff like that, and kind of went backwards from there. R. Crumb, Weirdo magazines. all that kind of- yeah. So like,
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
That's
so it's
twisted.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
I would say late teens, early 20s, I really kind of got a full appreciation for it, and it's never really died,
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a nice fitting combination, especially when you go back to the older films, the black and white, the gothic horror, the Val Lewton, everything's German expressionism.
Sure.
And to add that to magic just seems like just a
perfect marriage.
combination.
Yeah, thanks. And like, it was shocking. I mean, not that I checked, but like nobody else had kind of married those things. Although there was a magician primarily he worked in the 60s and 70s named Ricciardi, and he was a great stage magician. And what Ricciardi would do is he would bring out his assistant, who was his daughter, and he would drag this woman on stage, and he would take a rag which had ether on it, and he would put it to her face, and she would pass out. And then he would lay her down on a large table, like a medical table, and then get this massive buzzsaw. And he would take this buzzsaw and literally just saw her right in two, and there was blood and guts everywhere. This is
Herschel Gordon Lewis.
That's like the Wizard of Gore.
Yeah, Wizard of Gore. Yes.
Yeah.
Based on, I think, on the Ricciardi Act.
Oh my
that
God!
right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So then all these guts and blood are everywhere.
This is the 60s?
Yes.
Wow.
And then he invites the audience to come out of their chairs and walk around the table and look for themselves. And there's guts and blood everywhere.
God.
And that's the finale of his show. And and it's not like there's a big reveal and a ta-da.
No, are you
Good
kidding?
night, everybody.
You are
Tip
kidding.
your waitresses.
That's my kind of show.
So when you go home tonight, do yourselves a big favor and just go to YouTube and look up Ricciardi Buzzsaw, and it is the most Ricciardi, yes, Buzzsaw illusion, and it is one of the finest 3 moments on YouTube.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my
we will.
God.
Yeah.
And I think there's an episode he did a special where Vincent Price introduced him right
my
toward the late
gosh.
70s, and it's so good, and you can't believe what you're seeing, and it's filmed like with nice cameras and everything, so it really is. It was captured brilliantly.
Well, probably Wizard of Gore came out like in 70s, so it probably was inspired
Yeah.
by that.
Oh, yeah.
I would say
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Montag the Magnificent.
But see,
Montag, yeah.
even before that, I mean, you bring up a perfect thing. I mean, buzzsaws and Vincent Price. I mean, look, there is
Mad Magician.
the Mad
Magician,
Magician.
of course.
Oh my God, that's from
Yeah.
19,
Such a fun one.
1954.
Man.
Yep. It was
Amazing.
kind of like they're trying to do like another kind of House of Wax kind of thing.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
The fun thing is Warner Brothers was that the House of Wax was so successful with Vincent Price from '53 that this was kind of a quick way
Right.
to like capitalize. And the difference is it is shot in 3D, but it's in black and white, not in
Right,
color.
right.
And basically, you have a story of there's this guy who creates illusions or these
Right.
magic tricks.
But he's like cheated by
Yes.
other rival magicians and people. So it's like
Phantom of the Opera, and then
Yeah,
of course
yeah.
House of Wax, where it's
Right.
always somebody wronging that person.
Right.
So you're
So he's-
kind of rooting a little bit for
Yeah.
that
the mad guy.
villain. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he seeks revenge in different ways. And he's, of course, a master of disguise, too. So he disguises himself, and Ava Gabor is in it? Or
Yes,
Zsa Zsa
Ava
Gabor?
Gabor.
Ava Gabor. And, yeah,
Mary
it's a fun
Murphy,
film.
directed by John Bram. And what I love about it is because it's shot in 3D, they really try to do these things specifically for 3D, like a buzzsaw kind of in your face. But one of the things I love about it is, unlike the House of Wax, you see these great expressions that Vincent Price does in that film. But in this one, in Mad Magician, they do this great thing where they kind of zoom in, and he does these like this really anger in his face, and it's like it's almost like you can see he's like burning with anger in his face, and it's so cool. I love it. I love it. It's
A
such
different
fun-
kind of magic.
It is. Well, yeah, but it's such a fun film.
No, I love that one. Yeah.
That's a good one. Have you ever seen Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions?
No, I'm not.
That one you might find interesting. They actually film at the Magic Castle. There's a whole little sequence.
Is that
there.
any good?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. It's Clive Barker takes the Philip Marlowe detective style.
Okay.
It's Scott Bakula
Okay.
as this detective who's investigating this performance artist played by Kevin J. O'Connor, and he supposedly dies in this horrible act that goes wrong.
Right.
But there's this whole other plot of this cult leader and these people following him, and he was killed, but then he's kind of trying to come back to life, and the whole thing involves magic in a dark way. And Scott Bakula's character goes to the Magic Castle, and there's a secret panel I think you would like it. It was mid '90s, and it's not talked about much. It's not like a completely successful movie, but it's
I've never heard really anything about it.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty good. Famke Janssen is in it, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, a lot of good people, and it all revolves around kind of dark magic and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Dark magic.
Now, speaking of deaths that involve magic,
Oh.
the last time I saw you, Great Zabrecky, is when you did the last official seance at the Magic Castle, the Houdini seance, the last one that was in the template of the original model. And I was thrilled. I had never seen that seance before. And, there's some parts of it that are, dare I say, a little antiquated maybe, but the whole experience of it is just pure fun. And then what I really, really enjoyed about the experience is your part where you take us through the life of Houdini. And, you discovered magic by walking into a magic shop. When did you get into the history of these famous magicians, especially Houdini?
The second I walked into that magic shop.
Is that right?
because I really, when I fell in love with magic, it was no small thing. It was a true revelation. And I went to myself, I have a lot to learn because I love this stuff. The way that I made that audience feel that night when I did that silly little trick was something that was transformative. And I thought, I have to respect this art form. This is an art form, as music was an art form. And at a young age, I was someone who would study record covers and read every word of liner notes and read Cream magazine and have to, and this drummer played in that band. And oh my goodness.
And
so it was
a kind of obsessive kind of.
Yeah, a little
We know a little, we know a little bit about that.
Yeah,
yes.
I know you're all sick like me. I knew that coming into this, which is why I feel
It's
very
all around
which
you.
is why I'm very comfortable. By the way,
good.
So right away I knew I have to know. Like walking the Magic Castle, I went, Thurston? Who's Thurston? Chung Ling Soo? Who's that? And meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, all these other magicians have grown up with these people. They've read all these books. Well, I haven't. So I had to go back and do, a fair amount of research and homework, which I love doing. And it was really fascinating. And some of the greatest stories of all time to me definitely come out from the lives of some of these magicians, from the
personalities and
Right.
and the groundbreaking stuff that Houdini did.
Can we just for listeners who don't know, who is Harry Houdini?
Yeah, well, Harry Houdini was born Eric Weiss in Budapest, Hungary in 1873. And when he was just a child, he moved of all places, Appleton, Wisconsin, and then New York, where he was very poor. He had several brothers and a sister, and he had to kind of find his own way. So he found his way in vaudeville, and he became a trapeze artist early on. He loved playing cards, and then he, at a young age, became a magician and worked very hard to become a competent one. And at a young age, also met his girlfriend, Bessie, who became his wife, Bessie Houdini. So the two of them spent, half their lives together touring, rising to fame. He became famous around 1900. So that was the year that he really kind of broke, and he died in 1926 on Halloween. So that was kind of his range. Those 26 years were, very important for him. And he was an incredible person. He did a lot of great things for magic. He was a huge figure, not only as a performer, but he was the head of magic associations. He wrote literature. He rivaled with other magicians. He was able to point out what was right, and he saw things as right or wrong, and was a crusader.
And he was a real crusader when it came to like the phony spiritualist. Like he was a debunker, right?
Absolutely. And I can tell you why and how that happened. So imagine World War I, 1914, 1918. There's countless number of deaths in the world, right? So what happens as a result of this is the spiritual movement takes off around in the 20s. That's when all the spirit mediums started becoming everywhere. And what they were doing was they were saying, oh, you lost your brother in the war. Well, guess what? I can contact him. If you give me $5, we'll reach his spirit. And then they would take these suckers in dark rooms and dark parlors, et cetera, and then they would use magic tricks as a way to let people think that they were actually contacting these departed spirits.
Right.
And Houdini hated that because he saw that these people, essentially a lot of them were gypsies and lowlifes and dropouts who had just went, oh, I can be a spirit medium. If I just learn these 3 little tricks, I can.
What was that?
Yeah, exactly.
That was
if
good.
I can do a little of that, I can get people. I can make.
Was that you outside making the noise?
But Rob,
You'll never know.
my understanding too wasn't it that he was really close to his mother, and when his mother passed away, he wanted to speak with her, so he was driven to try to, if he can reach her in the afterlife
because
or whatever.
he still kind of wanted to believe.
And so
Right.
Is it kind of a mixture of the two?
What he was trying to do is trying to find someone who was real, authentic, and he hated these people who would make suckers out of people. And so there was this big campaign because he wanted to try to reach out to his mother. Right?
Well, yeah, he always wanted to believe. That was. I mean, like we all do, right? I
Sure.
mean, I think at the end of the day, most of us want to believe in something, that we don't just, our bodies don't just, vanish. And of course, he was a total mama's boy, and he wanted to contact his mother. And he and Bessie even had a pact that whoever would die, the survivor of the two, would contact the other by conducting 10 annual seances. So Bessie conducted these seances every year for 10 years, and they had a couple of code words. So
and wasn't there like somebody finally thought they found somebody who actually knew the code or did it, but then it wasn't?
So
or...
everyone, all sorts of crooks came forward and said, I've contacted Houdini. And she said, oh, really? Well, what did he say?
Right.
And then it was never the words those are between those, only those two knew what those words were.
Right.
So, and then people had, somebody else had came forward and said, oh, we contacted your mother, Houdini, and she wrote this message, and he looked at it and he said, well, my mother only wrote in Hebrew. And this is written in, English. So you're a liar.
Yeah.
Get out of my face. And so he was like, that was his thing. He was just blowing these things out of the water one by one. The crazy end of the story is he would debunk these spirit mediums and denounce them publicly. And then a month later, business would go right back to these people because everybody wants to believe. They want to believe.
Yeah.
So
Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Yeah, there's still crooks out there doing it
Peter
today.
Popoff and James Randi.
There you go.
And that guy's still on television.
I know.
Yeah.
So
Forget
weird.
it.
There was a pretty good TV movie with Paul Michael Glaser in the 70s.
I vaguely remember that.
What was that called?
It was Houdini,
It
right?
was called
He played Houdini.
The Great Houdinis with an S because it focused on his marriage. And I think Sally Struthers played his wife.
Wow.
How did I miss this?
Yeah, I got to see this.
It's worth checking out.
Wow.
It's very memorable.
Now, I do have an issue with that movie, but I want to save that for later on, because what I wanted to say is he was more than a magician. He was this great escape artist.
Yeah, an escapologist. Yeah, exactly.
And the funny thing about it is these escapes that he did were so amazing, so spectacular, that everyone kind of thought that if there's anyone who can escape the grasp of death, it has to be Houdini.
Correct. Yep. His manager said, you are going to do much better as an escapologist. You look much more interesting dangling upside down by your ankles 100 feet up in the air outside of the venue where you're performing at night, writhing out of a straitjacket, than you are doing, producing a couple of bouquets early on in the show, which is what he did that as well.
Right.
His act was broken up into 3 sections, and it was the challenge act where people could come and bring handcuffs and shackles. He would escape from those. He had a magic act, and then he would debunk the spirits at the end. He would say, well, here's a spiritualist movement. These people are crooks, and here's what they're doing. And he would actually expose some of that. So he lived a really interesting life. That his live show must have been pretty fascinating to see.
Yeah, really.
So,
But there was, unlike the one that James liked, there's a classic one with Tony Curtis and Janet.
that's the one, 1953.
1953 Houdini,
yeah.
and it's the
MGM.
colors are so beautiful, and Tony Curtis is so great, and also his manager is played by Torrin Thatcher from Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. He plays the evil magician. Well,
that
he's
right?
the manager, yes, and he's great. There's this great moment I remember when the guys want to come see Houdini. He goes, "Tell him Houdini is sick," and the way he says it is like, "Oh, it's Sakura the magician," the evil magician. But he's so wonderful. But there's some myths or stories about the end of his life, and maybe you could fill us in on this, because some people believe there was this famous escape thing that he thought, oh my gosh, I got to try this. This is the ultimate escape thing, and it's the Chinese water torture.
Yep.
And some people believe that he died in this. And it's wrong. It is wrong.
Thank you. It is so incorrect.
Could you tell us the story?
Yeah,
exactly?
yeah, I'd love to. So it's 1926. It's October. Houdini's on a tour. Him and Bessie are on a U.S. and Canadian tour. And he's up there in Windsor, Canada. And they played Montreal. And after one of his shows, he's interviewed. Oftentimes after post-show, he does like interview and a dinner. And so he takes a shower, gets in a robe. There's, these are nice vaudeville theaters. Mm-hmm. And college student comes back to interview him, and he brings his friend. And they're sitting down in a little kind of a lounge area. And the friend says, Houdini, I heard you can take a blow to the stomach at any time. And he said, yeah, that's true. And he turns away and he's kind of, getting ready to sit down. And the guy comes over to him and he throws a strong punch right to his stomach, bursts his appendix like this. Oh. So Houdini starts bleeding internally right there. Now, Houdini's always falling down. He's always getting hurt. He's always, breaking bones.
Yes.
He's always in some sort of pain just from the
He's like the evil Knievel of magic.
Yes.
Full on.
Yes.
No, that's
Nice,
good.
Sean.
that's good.
Man,
That's
that's
good.
going to my next seance. If you don't mind, I would like
Sure,
to
of course.
appropriate that.
$10.
And I'll give you no credit. or no
We'd have it
$10.
no other way.
Yes, he was the evil Knievel of magic. So he's always in pain. So he does the interview. He wakes up the next morning and he feels really sick. Now, that's because he's dying, right? So they rush him to the hospital. They come over the border and they get him to the Detroit hospital. Now, here's the crazy thing. He dies on Halloween, the date he had told all of his close friends and family that was the date he was going to die on. I'm dying on Halloween. He predicted that.
Wow.
And he died on Halloween. And that is all 100% true.
See,
It's a long way to go for a trick. I'm just saying.
But
it is.
But there is this belief that there was this water torture thing, and that is not true. So I would maybe
He
not
had
as sexy your story, but that's the truth.
He had some close calls, right? With
everything.
With everything.
The guy's
Right.
jumping over Niagara Falls. He's jumping over bridges. He's diving into ice. I mean, he was always hanging upside down by these cranes that were used to put up all these buildings in New York and LA and abroad. So he's up there dangling by a chain. If he fell, this is not a trick. This is just this is a feat.
There was no net.
Right.
There was no net.
yeah.
And he always said, hoist me high enough so if I do fall, I'm going to die. He didn't want to be, he wanted to, very smart.
And so what he would do when they'd hoist him up, he would be in a straitjacket.
Correct.
And so it's like no one could get out of a straitjacket, and he would be suspended, on a beam or something like 20 stories high, and he would upside down, and he would wiggle out of the straitjacket, which was an unbelievable feat.
Right.
I mean, he was hugely popular. He did some silent films.
He did. He made 3 movies. But I gotta go back to the feat. So that particular the straitjacket was something that he would often do in front of the theaters where he was performing in the day. So that they would invite the press down, and they would invite people off the street to go, oh, if this is the pre-show, that show inside that theater is going to be off the. I'm buying a ticket, and he'd sell out immediately wherever he was. That if he did that was going to guarantee
that's
a
smart.
sellout Orpheum, 2,000-3,000 seater. Like that was going to seal the deal.
Wow.
So he was really smart. Really, just had everything together when it came to his live show.
And when it comes to his ability to just control his emotions, his almost like, I guess, his heartbeat even. Like I know one of the tricks, they would lock him in some sort of tiny box. And now when I think of like the worst way to die, it would be to be trapped in a tiny box.
That's Matt's thing,
and
yeah.
left.
Yeah.
And like you just, wait till you run out of air or whatever. But the fact that he could have that done to him and not panic and be able to always remain calm and work that trick, whatever it was, is astounding. Like
It is.
that is real magic to me.
It really is. And the fact that you are afraid of that, and the fact that most people are, he was that smart. And that was a symbol, you see, I think for mankind at the time, where everybody felt trapped and locked into this, you come to America from Ellis Island, we're stuck in these little, in our little communities and our little jobs and whatever this is. So that he was smart enough to know that this was an analogy for the way that people felt he was breaking out of these confinements.
Oh, wow.
So that was something that was conceptualized. The man really was truly, I would say he was a genius. He was pretty smart.
Now, he also had a rivalry with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, too.
Mm-hmm.
And
He did.
because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle believed in spiritualism, believed in a lot of things. Didn't he also believed in like there was the pictures of some girls with these fairies?
Oh, that was a famous, there were these.
And it's funny, you look at the pictures now and you go, oh, well, that's a cutout. And it's obvious.
No, it was
Is that what you
huge-
say? You look at it and you say it's obvious.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, they are
But
pretty
back
obvious.
then-
Back then it was, it was a huge scandal.
It was a
though.
big thing.
Yeah.
And Conan Doyle believed all that. So they were constantly going back and forth with each other because Houdini was the voice of reason who said, no, there's got to be a trick to this.
Right.
And there was.
You would think the creator of Sherlock Holmes would have been the voice of reason.
I know but that's a funny thing too. That's the
Not
thing that
very
always gets me
elementary.
is that the guy who created Sherlock Holmes, who you think as like the paradigm of logic
I know.
and
Deductive reasoning.
yeah.
But it
It's
seemed like
amazing.
the spirit world or like that kind of area often cross paths with magic too, right? I mean, the kind of the mysterious and ghosts and stuff like that. Those worlds were sometimes kind of parallel.
Yeah, I think a lot of there were certainly supernatural types of magic back then, and I think we've always affiliated with magic with the other side, I guess.
And there's like so many like films in the 30s and 40s. You'd always see like seances,
Yeah, I think they were kind of just reacting to the spiritualist movement. By the 20s, by the end of the 20s, it was pretty much over, and it was a fad that happened mostly in America and England, and so. Then in the 30s, of course, the advent of film and popularity of that. What are they doing? What just happened? Well, it was that. So they were, you get a lot of, mock seance kind of stuff.
Right.
Houdini had that book, A Magician Among Spirits. And what's so interesting about that book is that there are just all these diagrams of all the different contraptions and tricks.
Right.
And there you go. There's a magician, exposing a trick. And a lot of these tricks, it's funny when you look at the diagrams, you go, well, that's pretty basic. And the fact that something that basic could fool so many people. And again, you got to have that element where you want to be fooled.
Right. Well,
Sure.
I want to ask Rob something here because, okay, so you're saying there's some things that are basic, but let's face it. He had people from all over the world show him, hey, you're such a great escape artist. Well, try and get out of these handcuffs because these handcuffs, no one can get out of these. And so I've seen they showcase this in the Houdini with Tony Curtis. It's great when people bring these handcuffs who are like, I didn't even bring the key, ha ha ha, and Houdini's able to get out of it. It's not so much a thing that he had. Wasn't he able to double joint it or dislocate things?
He would
in his
break
hand or something?
bones, though, as you said, right?
You tell us, sir. What?
I'm not telling you a secret. What do you think I am?
Well, see what we did?
This is what I can say. So many of the handcuffs that he got out of, and he had like a huge collection. So if you were to have an actual handcuff or something that Harry Houdini had got out of, that is a really valuable piece of memorabilia.
Yeah.
And doesn't the Magic Castle, do they have some of these things?
They have a set, yeah. Well, the Magic Castle has one set of handcuffs that he could not escape from. Yes. No. And the reason that he couldn't, I will tell you now, is because the person who brought them to the concert, the show, had tampered with them. They busted out the inside. So once the key went inside, there was no way they could come out. They'd have to be sawed off, basically. Now, here's the deal. Houdini was no dummy. So he had the fire department show up at all of his shows, and everything before he got them, they were always checked.
Yeah.
Every set had to be working. They went through everything and make sure that it was, that they were in fine working order. So that person was, not invited to the show, and they took those handcuffs, and we have them framed in the Houdini seance room, which is pretty cool to have that set.
That's awesome.
And it's a nice story too.
Yeah.
Is the Houdini seance to conjure the spirit of Houdini?
Only this, yes. The answer is yes, and it's only to conjure the spirit of Houdini. You'd be surprised at the number of people who go in there thinking that we're contacting their grandmother, or
Really?
You would be astonished. Or afterwards, they'll pull me aside and say, "Can you come to my house?" And I had a small dog that passed, and we'd like to see if we can get Judy back up on its feet, or see what's happening with the dog. And
So you get a show back.
yeah. I said, "What time should I be there?"
A dog seance has got to be
the pet
great.
seance is the best.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really where it's
But
at.
seances, though, work well in movies, though. They can work really
course,
well.
but they're so theatrical.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
great. Like The Changeling has a great, creepy seance.
One of my favorites, Legend of Hell House.
Yes, a couple in there, yeah.
The Legend of Hell has a great seance in it.
And that's got some great ectoplasm.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know the first time I saw that? I think we talked about this on another show. I was totally freaked out because as the gal is sitting there and then the green stuff comes
From her
out of the thing,
nails.
from her nails,
Wow.
and I mean, I really thought, oh my God, that must be how it happens.
Yes.
It's green smoke stuff that comes
Right.
out.
Well, the great Zabrecky can speak to this because
Yes.
now, sure, a lot of these other mediums are phonies, but what you do is the real deal.
Naturally.
And you have a show that you do that's amazing. The Other Side. And
The Other Side.
Yes. And I have learned so much about just the artistry, the science of a seance, and that it is real. And you've worked with celebrities, and you've made some of their most heartfelt dreams come true by bringing their heroes to them.
Well, thank you. That's exactly the idea. So, yeah, my show, The Other Side with Zabrecky, is a one-on-one seance where I bring on a guest, often a celebrity guest, into my home, into my parlor. And
Is that where that is?
That's where that is. And they get to...
I knew that.
It's kind of spooky.
Well, thank you. It's in Valley Village. If I may lower the veil.
Don't say that. I get a chill.
The mystery is oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That house in Valley Village.
And then they get to select the spirit that they want to contact, and so it's very fun for me to learn about the guest, and that they get to for someone to say, I want to contact Jack Black just came on as a guest, and he wanted to contact Kurt Cobain from Nirvana.
No. This is a good one.
That was a good one. Patty Schemmel, the drummer for the rock band Hole, wanted to contact Montecore, the big tiger that attacked Roy of Siegfried and Roy.
No.
Yeah, so
He's got some explaining to do.
Oh, yes, he does. Yeah, there's some questions. So it's for me to bring on the guests, and I learned that little bit about them because it's someone that they're fascinated with, or I
Right.
think are interesting. So that makes that whole process really worthwhile. And there's certainly a lot of ectoplasm in our show.
There's a lot.
Because
of
ectoplasm is proof that you have connected with the other side. You
Yeah.
see, this is the goop that comes out of us mediums while we're working. You see.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's
Do you
very.
keep the ectoplasm afterwards?
I can't talk to you about that. I don't reveal. There's certain things you just don't want to know.
If I went on eBay, could I purchase some of your ectoplasm? For the right price.
If you have a PayPal account,
It's already in your bank account.
but the point is, the shows are very fun for me as an art project because.
For being so real, they are very funny
Thank you.
and entertaining.
Thank you. And there's 13 more to come. I have a whole season and got some really
Nice.
great
Wow.
guests, and it's been a real thrill to create some content because, the Zabrecky character was created in the basement of the Magic Castle, not for the sake of any fame or fortune, other than that I wanted to do something very different from music, and I just was driven away from that thing. Like I was repelling. I just had to shed a new skin, and it wasn't because I wanted to be on the cover of a magic magazine or be recognized. It was I just needed to do something different.
Right.
Right.
So for so many years, that was my goal, was just do this weird little act I have, and I did it. And I finally started working at the Magic Castle, and that led to magic festivals and conventions and television appearances. And then I would let them be into acting because people would be like, "Oh, you do that weird character. Can you do that in our TV show?"
And you do quite a bit of acting.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, but
Yeah.
I can all attribute it to the magic character. But the point is, there was never, for the magic character, there's never really a goal for it to be famous. You see, so
What is wrong with you?
see, that's the thing. I've been doing this all wrong. I live in Hollywood. You'd think I would have reversed engineered this, but I didn't. But so in recent years, the goal was to get some content to put the Zabrecky character in a creative TV format. And so it ended up being on YouTube. It's just fine because there's not one jerk telling me how to do things,
Yes.
or what
Right.
music to use,
Right.
or what guests to have on, or
Right.
any of that, because I'm editing or co-editing, I'm co-directing, co-producing, writing it, all of it, whatever, and putting all the music in it and editing in very kind of jarring.
Yeah, it's a
time
very
signatures.
stylistic kind of
Yes,
thing.
very
Yeah.
stylistic.
Thank you. I mean, I have great pride and ownership with this thing, knowing that this is, for better or for worse, this is my thing. It's not the most commercial thing. Maybe, who knows?
In this day and age, I think it
there's-
might be.
There's enough weirdos like you guys,
Yeah.
Right.
for number
Right.
one, and
I've read the comments.
Yeah.
And it's all positive.
so far,
Yeah.
It's weird too because there are some creepy elements in it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Creepy and
Well, there's uninvited ghosts.
I love that. I love that.
every episode has an uninvited ghost. So the funny
wait. The uninvited ghosts. It's you're trying to reach out to someone, and then somebody else comes.
Like Shirley,
Yeah.
Shirley Temple shows
well,
up.
so
And there's a graphic too that says uninvited ghost. Which just makes me laugh just
Startling.
in and of itself.
thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, that was inspired directly from the Houdini seance, which you know because you just did it. So in the Houdini seance, we sit down and we try to contact the spirit of the great Harry Houdini, and that's all fine and good. And we do that there's a long route to get there.
Right.
But in the middle of the seance, this mysterious force comes in and interrupts it all, and that's when things kind of go bonkers. So in our show, Other Side of Zabrecky, we thought, well, I wanted to have that moment, that note, and right, we just bang him over the head with Shirley Temple and Douglas C. Fields, like, who else? Which is just a joy to sit down and go, who is this going to be?
The word brat here. It's like, I love that. I also love that there's a part where there's all these images of W.C. Fields coming at you, and then one has a price tag still on it. And I'm like, that's gorgeous. That's just beauty right there.
I don't discriminate.
Fantastic.
We're real.
Yeah. No, that happened.
Yeah.
Someone sold that photo.
Well,
And I bought it.
Speaking of your acting too, like you've been in some like horror related stuff. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I mean, it was all because of my magic character. That was the 100% reason that I got into acting. One night, a director, magician friend of mine said, "Hey, you're doing good here at the Magic Castle. People are totally responding to this character. It works in a live, ephemeral setting. Why don't you be an actor?" And I'm going to sound really stupid, but I went, huh. What about? Why not?
Where would I go for that?
What town? What city?
Yeah. Who's booking that? So I went home and I'm like, hey, my friend Jack said maybe I should think about being an actor. And my wife is amazing. She said, yeah, that's a good idea. There should be no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. So next week I'm like, well, I'm going to go learn how to act. I'm going to go down to my local theater company, Ventura Boulevard, a place called Theater West, knock on the door, and I say, hey, do you have any acting classes? I'm interested in this and learning the basics of acting. And they're like, yeah, we have a 2-year program. You can scrub toilets and clean the place in exchange for acting lessons. I realized there was plenty of acting schools and other ways to do it, but I thought, this is a cool way to do it because
I agree.
I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to pay in
work,
labor, and in exchange for something I really want.
And it sounds like that school has some heart. You know what I mean?
Completely. Yeah. And it totally did. And I ended up doing like 2 episodes of the Twilight Zone live on stage where they took classic Twilight Zone episodes.
Which ones?
Cool.
What was the one where the 7 characters are stuck in the big barrel?
Oh yeah, 7 characters in search of an exit.
Yeah.
7 characters. Exactly.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I was the hobo.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was really
Awesome.
fun. And then there was another astronaut episode where the astronauts are stuck on space, and then someone visits them like once every 5 or 10 years.
Oh, what is that?
That might be more like the hour-long ones.
I wonder if that is an hour one. That's great,
cool, though.
though.
Yeah,
To do live Twilight Zone.
So
Yeah.
I felt like kind of got right into like what I was interested in doing. I wasn't going and doing like musicals or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But I really was attracted to stuff I was into. So that was great. And then I got a commercial agent pretty quickly and started excelling at that. And then, I just landed very small co-star roles, and that led to more guest star roles, and then, some larger roles in TV and film.
The film DECAY,
Oh yeah.
which is like a tour de force. That's like your one-man show.
Yeah, that was crazy.
How did that come about?
Magic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You mean it was magic, or magic helped you get
It was.
that?
I would say both. I would say both. There's magic all around.
Well, the magic there was the great director Joey Wartner Cheney who directed that film. It was a magician, and the production designer and his wife were a husband and wife magician team on the amateur side. So they all knew me from that world.
Okay.
And so when they were casting it, they're like, "Oh," and I had a little reel, and it was maybe good enough, but I think that really helped push me into that role. And then I got to be, this guy, he finds a corpse in his house and he lives with her while her body decomposes.
Yeah. It's such a.
Whoa.
The tagline for that movie for me would be, how many times has this happened to you? Because it really is. Yeah. It's one of those situations where it starts off, you've got these 2 women breaking into your home, and they're just, because you've got sort of some odd hobbies, they're, having the time of their lives. And then you come in and go, hey, what are you doing in my house? And one of them panics and hits her head and dies. Nothing to do with you. It wasn't your fault. The other one freaks out and runs. And as she's running, she gets hit by a car.
No.
So there's no one to really track the girl back to him. So he's got this woman who is now kind of his friend, who he's, keeping cold with ice. And I love the bug zapper. Having dinner with her, he's got this bug zapper right in front of her. And I like that.
Sounds like
That's a good idea.
Sounds like a good double feature with the movie May.
May. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching. Have you ever seen May?
No,
You'd like it. Yeah.
No.
Because it's this poor, sad woman who, she has a very strange, domineering
An
mother
outcast.
who has this doll that she's kind of forced May to love and respect, but you always got to keep the doll in perfect condition. And so her obsession with this doll lapses over to her real life. She's trying to date people and have these relationships, but no one's quite perfect. But you'll find a perfect thing about that person, like their ears or their arm, and so things gradually come to kind of a grisly end, as you would expect. But it seems like it would be a double feature made in heaven.
Yeah. I can understand, because my 12-inch Princess Leia, I needed her. Her hair has to be her hair is in perfect shape.
Do you really want the cops to just come in right now?
No, I was talking about the 12-inch
Hide
doll.
your tracks.
No, I was, she's in perfect shape and her hair is perfect. Those buns have not been fondled or touched or anything. She's in perfect shape.
He is not being funny. He is.
No.
This is absolute seriousness coming from Larry Strothe. Yeah. When he says buns, that's not a double entendre.
No.
Yeah.
But this is really interesting, though. The seances and the dead bodies. But getting back to magicians and magic, do you want to know one of my favorite little magicians is?
Tell me.
It's actually from 1940s Fantasia, Mickey Mouse as the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, that's interesting.
I saw this as a kid and seeing Mickey interact with the story, he's an apprentice to this big magician or sorcerer, and sorcerer has all this great skill and stuff, and Mickey would so much want to be like this sorcerer. Well, the sorcerer has this big magic hat, and after he does this magic thing, he puts the hat down. The magician, the sorcerer goes off to his room, and Mickey says, "Oh, I'm gonna put on this hat, and I will be the big sorcerer." And it's done so beautifully. Fantasia originally, that segment, this was kind of a recreation or a reimagined version of Mickey Mouse. This was Mickey Mouse. This was the first time they actually had little pupils in his eyes. And Disney was trying to. Mickey had started to fall off in popularity. So this was one way. Well, we're going to make this great cartoon of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. We're going to do it all with music, and we're going to make Mickey a little bit more realistic or whatever. And it'll be this big adventure. And they spent like 3 times the amount of money that they would normally do on a regular animated cartoon. But what happened is it got so big and so expensive. They had been tossing around ideas of making this a bigger film. With music and stuff. And so Sorcerer's Apprentice became part of that movie. But what's great is Mickey, he decides, okay, well, this job that I had to do, I had to take buckets of water and pour it in, take it from one area and put it in the other. And so I'm going to make this broom. I'm going to use this magic and make this broom do it for me. And the music is great, do.
Don't.
Yeah.
ASCAP.
Yeah, so it's at Dukas, the music for Sorcerer's Apprentice. But and what happens is eventually the room is doing the work for Mickey, and Mickey has this dream of moving planets and oceans, and watching that as a kid was just so great and so magical. I'm like, oh my God, I would love to be that magician and do all this wonderful stuff. But all of a sudden he wakes up because this little broom had filled up the water tank, and now water was going everywhere. And Mickey tries to stop him, and he can't stop him. And so what do? Mickey, the only way to get him is, I'm going to get this axe, and I'm going to cut up this broom and stop him from doing all this stuff. And so he cuts up the axe. And what's great is what you guys may not know. Originally, the idea was to show Mickey using his axe and cutting up the broom, and you would see the broom get cut up, but they thought that it was a little too dark, So
Really?
so they decided to do like what you see as the silhouette.
Broom
You see-
violence
No,
is the
you
worst.
see it as a shadow on a wall.
Yeah.
and it works great.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, great, Mickey, he's done the job. Oh, great, now he stopped the broom. But all of the splinters of the broom all turn into giant brooms, and they all start getting the water out of the one little
Knights
area.
of the living
and
brooms.
It's so great, and it just builds this giant crescendo. But watching Mickey go through this, I mean, I loved it. I thought to myself, oh man, I want to be like Mickey. But then, of course,
What?
things go wrong. Well, things go wrong. But
Look, if that segment teaches us anything, it's if you're going to dabble in the dark arts,
Right.
don't use it for household chores.
True.
Save it for something. Take down a president or something.
Well said.
Right.
all right, well, that's a good point. But that's one of my favorite magicians.
You know what? That's a really interesting choice, and I'm going to go back and look at that because I remember the palette, the color palette of some of those early Disney movies were just so wonderful. But the storyline, I didn't have I'm going to go back and look at that. So thank you. That's a really good recommendation.
Yes, you should, sir.
Yeah, and I will.
Disney did a
noted.
live action with Nicolas Cage a few years ago.
You know what? And I'm going to tell the listeners, don't even bother.
Oh, you saw it?
No. Don't even bother.
I say bother.
no.
I'm a Nick Cage fan.
Okay, you know what?
Whatever he does, you got to check out at least.
Look, Nick Cage, he's a very talented actor, Academy Award winner, but not everything he's done has been great.
You could tell that one was sort of ill-advised just from the trailer.
Yeah, do you remember the ad campaign? The coolest job you'll ever have. Do you remember that? Tons of people lost their jobs over that film because it was a huge box office bomb. Bomb.
Nick Cage got paid.
Yeah, well.
True.
Just
Spend
watch
it, but-
Sorcerer's Apprentice. Watch Fantasia, okay? And the Sorcerer's Apprentice is the third segment in there, and it's just wonderful, beautiful.
Are there
going to.
are there like magic themed or magician centric films that you really like? You know?
Oh yeah, there certainly are. I mean, boy, Laurel and Hardy did a Haunting We Will Go.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
So that had a nice sequence in it.
Did you ever watch the show The Magician?
With Bill Bixby?
With Bill Bixby,
I liked
yes,
that as a kid. It was
sure.
only like one season.
Yeah, one season.
I love the idea of it though. He's like he's a magician by day and a crime fighter by night.
It's kind of a stretch, but I went with it.
Yeah, me too. As a kid, I
But I
liked
mean,
it.
I mean, he used his
And
abilities.
I remember
Why not?
at the end credits, he always said, which as a kid impressed me, it was like a disclaimer saying that all the tricks that Bixby did in the show were not camera tricks. They were. It was like really him
That's
doing
what-
magic,
yeah.
which is
That's
kind of cool.
right.
you know,
Yeah.
so. But yeah, I love that show.
I went back inside as an adult, like after knowing, who the actor was and where it was filmed and all that. So it was interesting on that level. But I did not see it as a kid. I don't remember. I have no memory of it.
And of course, you remember David Copperfield in Terror Train.
I did not.
I forgot that he was in that.
Terror Train was like during the wave of slasher films in the early 80s. Jamie Lee Curtis. It's basically like a
I gotta
slasher
write
on a
these down.
train.
This is too good.
We've got a list.
1980, and Copperfield plays himself as aboard a train. It's like this graduating class of kids for a New Year's party on a train, and of course, there's a serial killer, killing people on the train. But David Copperfield doing a part. He's kind of like a red herring too at one point. Like you think, oh, is it David Copperfield? That's the killer. It's pretty funny. But yeah, that's like a little like horror meets magician film.
And then we talked about magic, of course.
yeah,
Oh,
with
this
Anthony
is- okay,
Hopkins. Yeah, Corky.
So the classic magic with Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
God.
Who's so good in that.
And he's actually a magician that kind of
Ventriloquist. slash,
yeah.
He starts with magic.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. He
Right.
starts out with magic, and he decides, perhaps this puppet will help me be more successful. And the puppet's
Fats.
the dummy's name is Fats.
What a great name.
And what's weird about the movie is Anthony Hopkins is great, and Fats has a really kind of a creepy voice.
yeah.
And just when you look at Anthony Hopkins, you see this guy who's just kind of going nuts in a way. It's
In a way. It says a lot about you, Larry.
Anyway, yeah.
But kind of a precursor to that is from the 60s. There's a movie called Devil Doll
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
with
Devil
Brian
Doll.
Halliday.
Oh, I've seen that poster.
Yeah.
but I-
that's a good
that's
one.
That's a genuine supernatural film.
Yeah.
where it's
British
like,
movie because
yeah.
because the dummy really does come to
Well,
life.
he's captured like some assistant's soul and put it in the dummy.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
trapped in there, and the dummy
Well, and
gets
there's
up
been
and
a-
walks around and kills
And then,
people.
Dead of Night and
Right.
Sure.
Twilight
Twilight
Zone
Zone
also had,
episodes.
they all had
Yeah,
their
there's a lot of
dummy
them.
episode.
Let me transgress for a second. What was the name of the film you said it with the seance, the ectoplasm scene?
Legend of
Legend of Hell
Legend of
House.
Hell
Legend of
House.
Hell House.
And
Yeah.
yet you have not or have
I
seen
have
that?
not.
That one's like it's this team of scientific investigators who stay in this supposedly infamous haunted house,
But
and
it's-
they're doing all this scientific
But it's
apparatus.
more than that. It's
But
it's a big, expensive house. And this guy has actually been hired to, okay, whatever this thing has in it,
Right.
you're a scientist and you have the capability of sucking whatever it is.
He's got a machine.
A machine.
He's looking at it from a
He's got a
scientific point
yeah,
of view.
that there are
Scientific.
these
That's-
energies that he can reverse with this big machine that he has.
But what's great is you have science, and then you have these other people who are
Mediums.
mediums.
Yeah.
And so it's great that
Roddy
they're-
McDowell.
Oh, and he's
Great cast.
wonderful.
Clive Revel,
Yeah.
Pamela Franklin,
Great.
Gail Honeycutt. Great movie.
It's
Great movie.
from a book by Richard Matheson, who had done a lot of Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's in that. And what year is it?
This is 70s?
73.
73. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So
And they-
films were looking good right about
Yeah.
now.
Great atmosphere, really good haunted house movie.
Yeah.
And a great, some might say it's ridiculous. I love it. Twist ending.
It is ridiculous
I
and
don't,
great.
I don't
at the
think it's
same time.
ridiculous
I love
at
it.
all.
I love it.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all. I bought it, hook,
It's
line,
great.
and
It's
sinker.
great.
Have you
And the
seen,
effects are wonderful,
yeah.
too. It's
Have
like-
you seen Christopher Nolan's The Prestige?
Oh, yeah, of
What'd you think of
course.
that?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, that was
that's
an
a
interesting
great-
film.
That's a
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting
Okay, now
movie.
I had never seen. I just saw it very recently, and it's
very
really
good.
interesting.
Well, you got Bowie as Tesla.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it actually goes into a sci-fi.
Yes, it
element.
does. And
Yeah.
you don't expect that.
Now,
Yeah.
but for listeners though, if this is 2006, and there were like 2 or 3 magic films that came out at that time, The Prestige was one of them. And the interesting thing about The Prestige is, so what is it about? It's basically about these 2 competing magician or
Rival,
illusionist
right,
people.
Christian
okay?
Bale and Hugh
They were
Jackman.
friends when they were younger, but as they started to go their separate ways, they're kind of competing and almost on a they try to sabotage each other
Yeah,
in
totally.
certain ways. And I had no idea where it was going to go.
Yeah, neither did I.
And talk about a twist ending.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
Way-
it's,
That's a good one.
crazy ending, but it kind of did it
It-
in a way
it makes
that
sense.
I bought it.
Yes.
Yeah. The only trick that Christian Bale didn't really pull off in that movie
Go ahead.
was a convincing Cockney accent.
But I have to say,
it's a good film.
I've got
though.
a man crush on him. I love him in everything.
but also you have Michael
agreed.
Caine, you have
Yep.
Scarlett
Yeah,
Johansson
yeah.
in it, and
Oh, right.
it's a great cast. But you know what, Sean? I'm gonna up one here.
Okay.
I think that one it made a lot of money. It was very big. You had a big stars in.
Yeah,
But
you-
I'm thinking there was a film in 2006 that I liked better, and that was The Illusionist. Because this is
I have not seen that.
Okay, this is the one. It was directed by Neil Berger, and he's the guy who's done Limitless and Divergent. And
Oh,
this is the
okay.
one that stars Edward Norton. And the reason why I like this one better,
I like
is-
him in everything, too.
Yeah, but The Prestige is great. But honestly, neither guy is, you're seeing like good and evil. They're both kind of equal, but I didn't like the guys as much. But in The Illusionist, I really like Edward Norton.
yeah, I
and
can check
he's
that out.
the one magician or illusionist, and it's this great story where as a young kid he befriends this young girl, but the young girl belongs to like a wealthy family. He's kind of like a poor kid, but he is able to show some tricks to her, and she likes him, but the families try to keep them apart.
Right.
And years later, they kind of meet, and now she's engaged to like a man who may become a ruler of the country. And he becomes this illusionist that has become very powerful and very famous in the country for doing these illusions, these very fancy tricks. And the guy who's kind of running the place doesn't like him because he thinks, like Matt, he's like, oh, I know how to do that trick. And he can't really figure out how to do tricks. But
is it kind of Rasputin-ish? or-
No,
okay.
it isn't. But it's beautifully shot. The cinematographer is nominated for best cinematography, and
I haven't seen this.
And because it's more of a love story, I
That's probably
really
why
like
I didn't
this.
see it.
Okay, well, no, you know what? I'm going to recommend this to you, sir, because I know
Love is the toughest trick of all.
No. I'm going to recommend The Illusionist. It is beautiful.
I will.
And
I'll
it's,
see that.
And talk,
I've
talk
wanted
about
to
a
see it.
twist ending too.
Oh,
I
okay.
did not expect what happened in this
Okay.
film too. So I know that as Sean said, The Prestige, I think it got more play because The Illusionist was a kind of a low budget film. It was like $16 or $20 million. Edward Norton, I mean, he put everything into this, and Prestige. You had a big cast. It has a lot of fancy stuff.
Yeah.
I'll see this.
So I'm going to suggest checking out The Illusionist.
Okay.
Now, there's a series that's been on for a couple seasons that I have not seen. I've heard some good things about. It's on Sci-Fi Channel called The Magicians.
Yeah, I just watched. Yeah,
Is that? It's kind of like a secret academy
like-
of like magic. It's kind of the black arts and
Yeah.
stuff.
The one thing I
Like adultish
it is
Hogwarts.
on
Yeah,
one
yeah.
hand. On one hand, the cool thing about it is it's graphic and there's a lot of like really creepy things. The thing I don't like I think Matt and I talked about when everyone has that line, that funny line, or not like
Right.
comedy,
Right.
but
No, I know what you're talking
know
about.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Overwritten kind of.
Well, it's kind of
Everybody's quipping.
has that quip, and there's a lot of quipping in it. In my opinion, now maybe it's
stupid quips.
No, maybe it's great for a younger audience, like maybe my daughter or something that would
I
think,
think it's
oh,
going to aim more towards teenagers or young adults.
yeah, because I can see it. Because
Yes,
part of me
I think
felt
so.
like you didn't need that. Well, Matt, we've talked about this when we talked about the Avengers or Ragnarok, where everyone has that comical line.
Somebody's got to be the straight man.
and it's like yes, it's funny, but it's like you don't necessarily need all of that.
hitting you over the head with gags.
Yeah.
Speaking of like horror and magic, there's one film that it's kind of similar to Lord of Illusions, but much later. It was in 1991. I think it was an HBO or a Showtime TV movie called Cast a Deadly Spell. And it was Fred Ward as Detective Philip Lovecraft, and it was a cute idea, which was it was kind of like done in like a kind
Film
of
noir.
film noir 40s thing in a city, and it was in this world.
Like if magic were
Black
real,
magic was everywhere. People used it for everything.
Yeah.
But Lovecraft hated it, and he was old fashioned, didn't use it. And David Warner is like the bad guy. He finds like he finds a Necronomicon, and he wants to bring up like an old one. It's like a Lovecraft. It's
Cool.
kind of, but it's lighter and a little silly.
I'm getting tired of light Lovecraft.
Yeah, but this
vehicles.
was like but it was kind of not bad though. But Fred Ward's great though, and everything.
Sure. Has anybody ever seen Now You See Me?
I have not seen that.
Big Hollywood movie.
No, I know.
About
Yeah.
I heard they weren't that great.
Yeah.
There's two of them, right?
There's two.
Yeah, I
They
saw
did
the
a
first
sequel.
one and I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think
not recommendable necessarily.
Really?
Kind of a good score. I think Tyler Bates did it, but other than that,
There's some cool
some-
magic in it, but it was it was
and a
all
good
just,
cast. Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo and yeah.
well,
like
this is from 2013. And it's actually directed by Louis Lettner, he actually did the Hulk with Edward Norton, by the way. And
I love that movie.
But he also did the newer Clash of Titans, which I wasn't really a big fan of. But you have a really great cast in it. You have
what's the movie?
Now You See Me.
Oh, Now You See Me.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because it's got Jesse Eisenberg. So you've got
Michael Caine.
Dave Franco, Morgan Freeman, and it's like you have this group of magicians who are they have a kind of a Vegas kind of style about themselves,
Okay.
and you wonder where this is going to lead. It has to do with money and insurance, and it's kind of
Sounds great.
No. It's the funny thing is you guys are snoring, but apparently it was popular enough that they did a second one. So
People,
Is there is there a third one?
Insurance
Saying, I've seen
information.
enough.
I will say this. If you're watching it on a Saturday night or something, you've got it on. It might be kind of
it's on
fun to watch.
Sunday nights.
on a Saturday
Yeah.
night?
Yeah, okay,
That sounds like
okay.
a Wednesday or a
Okay, but-
Tuesday afternoon.
But if you want like a good classic magic, I would go for The Illusionist over Now You See Me.
Well, now, here you are in the middle of the magic world. I'm sure there's so many famous magicians that everyone's heard of, the David Blaines and David Copperfield and all that. But who are some magicians that you like that maybe a lot of us haven't heard of?
Right, yeah.
Well, I will tell you that the first name that comes to mind is a gentleman named Derek Delgadio. And
Okay.
Derek Delgadio is a very talented magician. I think he calls himself a performance artist as well, that he kind of shares those titles. Because the two shows that he's had that have both been long-running shows in LA and New York can be classified as a performance art kind of piece. His last show, called In and of Itself, ran in New York for a couple of years, and it was amazing. And it really changed the way people looked at magic because it was so story-driven. And it truly was, it felt like it was equal parts one-man show.
Okay.
And then equal parts, magic show. Basically, it split that. It walked that line so perfectly, and at the end of it, his magic is impeccable, first of all, and the stories were honest and they were real. So there was a great sense of pathos and apathy.
Were they personal stories?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why you fall in love with this guy, is because you see his struggles and his triumphs that came from where he came from and kind of what he rose to be. So
Sounds amazing.
it's truly amazing. And a lot of people hailed him as the new Ricky Jay, who just passed. Obviously, Ricky Jay was a big one for the magic world and the acting world. He contributed a lot to both of those fields. And Derek was kind of, in some ways, people crowned Derek with that throne. So I would say Derek is one name. There's so many names in magic that I could tell you that would make no sense, and I could describe their acts and you'd go, oh, that sounds nice. But the truth of the matter is there's just not as many, since the pool of magicians is smaller than, say, acting or music or fine art or whatever, that there's fewer famous people. Penn and Teller have been doing fabulous work for decades, and they continue to do a great show in Las Vegas. And every time I see them, they've added 2 or 3 new pieces in their show, and you go, "Wait a second, it was great.
So
it was
strong.
a 10 before, and now it's still banging on all 8 cylinders, and they're still just as energized as they are now, as I guess since they probably started. So they are just a true force of nature."
Now, when it comes to your approach for your show, how do you go about creating a new effect, a new show even? Do you do one show and then retire it and then
Yeah, like how
start a whole
often
new
do
one?
you-
Or
Yeah, that's a good question. So what works for me is this thing called the Zabrecky Hour. And it's an hour of my magic show, which is basically a variety show that I can do at magic conventions, festivals, even comedy festivals. It can work in almost any theater, black box theater, or larger scale performing arts center, whatever, where I can load my gear in at 3 o'clock, and by 8 have basic tech and ready, can kind of go with 12 sound cues, 5 light cues, and the show kind of, I know it really well, and I can kind of dial it in. And I try to treat it like a film. I try to treat it like a piece of music where there's peaks and valleys. I try to repeat things, and it's always changing. A few years ago, I wanted to put a piece about regret in my show. So I came up with this piece called The String of Regret, and where I break up a piece of string. And
We have lots of those.
Long string.
don't talk about Larry's string. It's very long.
Yeah. So I of course, the analogies for my real regrets were replaced with comedy, comedic bits. And so it gave me the opportunity to hit that note and put that in there. So it's really kind of how I'm feeling. I'll look at a set list and see how it's balanced and go, what can I use in this? What can make this a little more effective, or jazz this up over here? And then I kind of play around move the furniture around a little bit. But I just try to do a well-balanced variety show. And I always try to add something new. The next piece I'm working on requires me to wear roller skates.
Wow.
So to do a trick that I've been doing for a really long time, I'm just going to do it with roller skates. So we'll
That's
see
great.
Yeah, right.
And do you stay in character too all the time?
of course, yeah.
I mean, but even like maybe right before or after the show too. Do you
that's a thing for me that I kind of get in the dressing room, and then as I'm getting all the props together, I slowly just kind of start easing into that.
Yeah, there's a body language.
Yeah.
Seeing the beauty in the darkness. It's a whole thing, And then I'm I'm the normal one, and all these people are batshit crazy. So I'll just treat them like aliens. And if I do that, suddenly the world becomes, I kind of get into the mode. And then when the show's over, there's nothing more that I want than my life back. So I'm not someone who stands in the lobby and, eats a piece of pie and shakes hands and stays in the character. For me, it's like, get these clothes off. Give me my jean jacket and go, hey, thanks for coming. And for a lot of people that does drop the veil, and they're like, what happened to Zabrecky? I'm like, he's gone.
But that's great.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, that's what it should be.
For me, that's what it is. And I'm not someone who sees it. I see it as a very theatrical thing.
Yes.
Right.
It's certainly cathartic, and I love
It's very healthy, Rob.
Thank you. But I get in and I get out. That's how it works for me. And, I don't know how it works for other people. Everyone has different approaches to that sort of thing. But for me, it feels really good. And so I will continue to tweak the Zabrecky Hour probably forever, because it's something that I can always find new pieces. Sometimes I'll see or read about a piece of magic, and the first thing I think is, well, how do I not do it the way that I've read about it?
Right.
Or if it's a presentation that I've seen, a clip, or an old thing that I've seen on TV or something, or whatever it comes to me, the first thing is just rearranging. So this is like, I'm not going to claim this is some original thing, but I'm going to put it through my filter and it's going to come through my voice.
Right.
Make sure that it hopefully looks nothing like the original. That's always huge, massive goal for me.
Right.
And
Similar to music.
right. Kind of hide your influences in a way, but then also you also kind of have to wear them on your sleeve and not be afraid to be like, yeah, I'm into that stuff.
Expand upon it.
If you play the blues and you don't play the blues, that's a problem.
Right. Or recognize that you're playing the blues. There's a certain thing where you've got to, there's something about taking something that's already existed and then putting it through your filter that's always the goal for me, is to do that.
Now, the show that I saw you do, and I believe it was on Halloween, where you worked with some other people, and there was a bit that I really enjoyed where you have a conversation with the moon.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was fun. And I also was wondering, from having this solo act that you have all this control over because it's just you there, how does it feel then to then work with other people and work off them?
Oh, great. I mean, I've always liked the collaborative process since my teens playing in bands and stuff. I've always loved the idea of like somebody playing a drum thing and then you come in with a bass thing and all of a sudden you start yelling over it and then you got all this noise. So love collaborating. And the moon is I have a large scale crescent moon that I have conversations with, and usually each show that I do, if it's a run, I'll write a new script for it and have a different person play the moon, which is somebody off stage holding a mic, and I'm kind of operating the puppet. So over the years,
It's really good.
a couple years ago, I had a woman who's a friend of mine play a sexual predator where the moon was a predator trying to get me to take my shirt off. So you see this like nice like picture of this man singing. I mean, it's like in you see all those pictures in the 20s.
Right.
And it starts off so pleasant, and then the moon's like, "You look really good tonight." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. So do you. It's such a nice night." It's like, "It's a little hot in here." And then like, so it just boils down to like, so I do go like, I'll hit dark, like something that looks like it should be one thing. Sometimes there's nothing better than just
Twist
going,
it.
Yeah.
Let's just take a sharp the left turn, as you say, and that to me is like the funniest stuff.
Oh,
So the moon
pure
is a
joy.
great thing where it's a great prop. Looking at like, well, here it is. How can we sort of reimagine this in a way that people are going to get a totally different experience?
Yeah.
Right.
And walk away with it, hopefully just chuckling and be like, well, didn't see that coming.
It was a good time. It was a really good time. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
How are you? Are you?
I feel great. This
You're,
is a
are you
blast.
having fun?
Blast.
Because you're gonna
some
love.
water or anything. You good?
No, I'm fine. I feel good. Yeah.
Some more Chinese food?
You okay?
I'm great.
James, you all right?
Did you want to jump in? Did you have something? You wanted
James,
to
do you have a
say?
movie?
I
Do
actually
you have a beef?
I will.
Why are you so mad at Rob?
Well, I think we should come clean.
I'm never going to write this, but I have a pitch for a magician movie.
Okay.
So I might as well share it here because, again, I'm never going to write the thing. It's called The Knee Jerk. And
Knee jerk.
And it's about
I love it already.
It's about a police detective who always wanted to be a ventriloquist, but he was never good enough, and he was always a little unhinged like Anthony Hopkins. But there's a big magicians convention in town, and he's dying to be a part of it, but he can't be because he's not in the industry. But there's a murder, so he has to go investigate. He brings out the dummy. This is his big chance. He doesn't care as much about the investigation, but this is like he can be in the world of magicians. So he lets the dummy do the investigating. And again, he's a little unhinged. So it's like the dummy is actually kind of way smarter than he is. And the dummy throws off all the people he's questioning because it's like, what the hell? It's a dummy questioning me. And a little bit like Columbo, he actually finds the killer through the dummy.
I like that.
What I love about this, try finding a murderer in a room full of magicians. That's the pitch.
Sure, that reminds me of the Columbo episode with Jack Cassidy as the magician.
That is a great
That's
episode.
great, James. I like
But
that.
James, that's so good.
Why do you say you'll never write it?
I actually,
Then you should write it.
I agree.
Well, guys, let's collaborate. Maybe we
Okay.
can knock this out in a couple of weeks.
You just want to pawn the work onto someone else, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'll be the first in to read for it once the script's down.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, now I have
So you've already got an actor attached.
Right.
That's
An
right.
actor, but
You know what?
genuine
attached.
magician.
I tell you know what? This is sounding pretty good now, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now I have
you should give us a treatment.
All right.
Get a
Yeah,
treatment
yeah.
going
Yes, I will
because
do
I
this.
like this a lot.
Man, that's
I think it's
really
good.
Call our
Nice,
call
nice.
our secretaries and we'll make an appointment.
You know,
Yeah.
the topic of magic, it's such a huge topic. You had mentioned a magician that we weren't really familiar with, and we had mentioned Doug Henning and Houdini. These are like famous ones. There was a magician that I was familiar with in the 70s that kind of followed the standard traditional magician look, where you have the beautiful suit and the top hat and stuff. But he did a bunch of really cool things back in the 70s, and I'm talking about Harry Blackstone Jr. Now,
I knew you were gonna say that.
Now, the thing about it is, Harry Blackstone Jr., he was the son of a magician, and actually his father did a buzzsaw trick similar to Vincent Price in The
Yes,
Mad Magician, which is really, really exciting. But Harry Blackstone Jr. was really, really cool. What I remember him for was there was a great Jiffy Pop popcorn commercial. And I remember the kids coming in the kitchen, what do we do? It's him. It's Blackstone Jr. And he shows me, goes, that's right, kids. With Jiffy Pop popcorn, it's magical. And you know, they did. And this is when Jiffy Pop popcorn, it came in a little foil thing. And you had to do it over the stove.
It still
kind of
does,
a
doesn't
thing.
it?
Well,
You can still do it,
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
hope so.
yes. But not only that, he also did a commercial for cigarettes to stop you from smoking. It's so magical. Yeah. But he did a lot of these great things. He was big in the 70s. He did these variety shows, but he also had a very famous trick. It was the floating light bulb trick. And you can actually find this on YouTube. You can type in, Harry Blackstone Jr. floating light bulb, and you watch it, and you think you know how it's done, but then it goes through another phase. You go, oh my God, how does it do? And it's great. And my understanding is his floating light bulb trick is actually donated to the Smithsonian Institute as a little
Exhibit?
Yes, exactly. And what's really cool is his lovely wife, Gay, I guess he had met her in Vegas. She was a showgirl. He needed an assistant, and that's how he got her in the act and fell in love. And she was his assistant for years. And she went on to become the president of the Magic Castle for years.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that trick, the floating light bulb, was his father's trick. So Blackstone Sr., who was a contemporary of Houdini, where Houdini was famous for these escapes and debunking the spiritualist, Blackstone was making the light bulb float. And this thing would float through these vaudeville theaters, and just like you were saying, just when you think, well, it's on a string, well, it comes through a hoop.
Yeah.
And you go, well,
Wow.
there goes that.
Yeah.
And then it's in a bell jar, and you're like, well, there goes that. So it keeps, as your brain is starting to kind of tie together these hypotheses of the logic, every idea, every method is getting shot down because
Debunked. Yeah.
No, it can't be that because it just,
Wow.
yeah.
It's so great. But the thing I loved about him, and Matt might remember
Oh.
this. I don't know if you.
I was hoping you were going in this direction.
Okay. He did a piece for Evening Magazine. Evening Magazine was it was a TV show in Northern California time when they would do stories on things within the Bay Area. And he was brought in to do a story on the haunted Toys R Us.
Whoa.
And he narrated, and the funny thing is, yes, sir. Do not doubt. And I'll tell you why. There was a very famous Toys R Us in the Bay Area in Sunnyvale. And some people might know this story. And Evening Magazine wasn't the only TV show that did a piece on this haunted Toys R Us. Also, That's Incredible and Leonard Nimoy's Mysterious Haunts or something. There are a bunch of things throughout the 80s and the
So
90s.
clearly it was real.
Yes. But check it out. So in the Bay Area, it used to be nothing but orchards. And there was this giant farm that was owned by this big farmer, and he hired people to come and work on the farm. Well, there was this guy who was a preacher, but he needed some work, and they said, oh, well, we'll give you some job. We're, picking apples over here and cutting some wood and stuff. Well, the preacher took one look at the farmer's daughter, and he goes, oh, my God.
I know this joke.
Yeah. No, there's no joke. And he fell in love with her. But because the farmer was, he had made a lot of money or whatever, and she was kind of upper class, she didn't want anything to do with this guy, but he loved her from afar. Well, he's on the farm, and he has to cut this wood, and he's kind of out far away where there aren't a lot of people. And he was cutting some wood, and he accidentally cut a huge gash in his leg, and he fell over. Oh! And he tried to scream for help, but no one came to help him because he was so far away. And he sat there, and he bled to death. Now we go 100 years later, and on that spot where he died, they built a Toys R Us. And people have claimed that they would see him appear in the Toys R Us, and things would move. And one of the sequences that they had is when they're describing the story. This was done back in '79, and they see the Godzilla toy that I have, by the way, the Shogun Warrior one. You see him come in, and he sticks his little tongue out. I'm like, oh, I have that toy. Oh, and I felt this connection with this ghost. But so Blackstone Jr. tells the story, and they actually had a seance in the Toys R Us, and employees.
How'd that go?
Did Jeffrey show up?
Jeffrey the giraffe?
Yeah. Was he in the seance?
No, Jeffrey the giraffe was not in the
They put
seance.
his hands on his little giraffe horns.
But as we all know today, in 2019, that Toys R Us are closed. So now I imagine
Now his spirit
curse.
can rest.
no, it's a Toys R Us. But anyway, Harry
That is the
Blackstone-
most magnificent piece of poppycock.
No. You think it's?
I love it. I love it.
Okay, can I just you type in? Go to YouTube. Go Blackstone Jr. Haunted
No,
Toys R Us,
I-
and he'll tell
I don't
the story.
believe it was
Hello-
covered.
Welcome, and here we are at the Haunted Toys R Us. And
Is this something you can watch like on YouTube? Maybe?
yes,
Oh,
you
okay.
can
I'm
watch it, and
curious.
there's a whole variety of
I
things.
believe that it was covered, but I just don't understand the logic. Ghosts are so petty. So I killed myself because I was chopping wood.
No, it was an accident.
Now I'm mad at toys?
no, he happened to a time. Look, it could have been a Target built there, and then they said, "Oh, he's
mad at Home Improvement."
Well, no, but what's neat about the piece is when they interview various employees and stuff, you'll see vintage toys in the background.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I flipped out over.
Well, that is a glorious story. And
Okay.
I
Well, I
enjoyed
just
that.
wanted
I
to-
enjoyed that very much. I thought you were going to talk about the Blackstone magic kit because that's what I always.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I thought of him, I thought of that magic kit. Yeah. Because it was funny how, remember, there was a time, especially I remember in the 70s, where suddenly, because I didn't really know of Blackstone Jr. before seeing him on TV.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
sure.
it's like all of a sudden, TV decides to introduce somebody to you.
Yeah.
So it's like the
right.
Jiffy Pop ad. It's like, hey, it's Blackstone Jr. Like, you don't know who this guy is. This guy with the mustache came in, and now he's making your popcorn.
Yeah.
That's a little freaky. But yeah, then all of a sudden now, Blackstone, and then there was this wonderful magic kit. As a kid, did you ever get a magic kit?
Nope.
No. That's interesting. Because
Zero.
I bet every one of us got a magic
I
kit.
have a friend who had that kit. Yeah.
I had there was one before that.
Yeah.
And it was made by Adams. You know what I'm talking about, right? And Adams would also do a lot of the novelty things. So whoopee cushions and a rubber pencil and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fake dog shit. And
Yeah.
But they had this little kit and it had a bunch of tricks you could do and some gags. And I think it had like the wand with the rabbit on it where, you could make it disappear.
Paddle, yeah.
Paddle.
Sure.
And then there was the shell game. And I remember as a kid, because I got to that moment as a kid where I wanted to be, maybe I could be a magician.
The Great Weinhold.
Great Weinhold, yeah. I like the sound of that. It sounds a little whiny, but I like it. I think I could make it work. And I remember I got that kit, which is the most basic.
Yeah.
There was a bit where you had to, it was a series of little metal tins with rubber bands. And there was a way that you could then get a sealed note inside it. And the way they explained it in the instructions made it seem like it was so simple. But if you did it, it was just, everything would just fall apart. The rubber bands would break. The little metal pans would go everywhere.
That still happens. It
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all.
hasn't gotten much easier.
Yeah. But I remember I got that and then I went to Fisherman's Wharf and they had that magic place and I got like a bunch of tricks. And I remember going to the school and as a kid, I had tremendous overconfidence, but little ability.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm doing this magic show in front of the whole school.
Oh,
and I
my
just
goodness.
crash and burn.
Yeah.
Oh, you actually tried to
Oh,
perform
yeah.
Wow.
it? Okay.
I had kids running up afterwards, like going, "This is how it was done." Like, yeah.
As a kid, Matt, there was this really great magic shop close to our house. Well, we had to ride our bikes; it was a little farther away. And the magician guy who was the store owner would the kids come in and he'd show you these tricks. And I swear to God, everything he showed us was so amazing. And he made the simplest thing look so fantastic. There was this giant foam snake with red eyes and a rubbery tongue. And he had this little wire thing and made it kind of come alive. And I said, I gotta get this snake. I've gotta get it. And he showed us how you can do it and make it come alive. And I remember just scraping money together to buy this damn foam snake. And I get it. And, I just can't make that snake come to life quite like the magician did.
It's like someone playing a violin.
Yeah.
All right. All I got to do is get that magic violin.
And that snake, I tried practicing with snake, and eventually the snake, he was foam, and he slowly deteriorated, and the wire in him kind of like...
It's a metaphor for life.
Yes, and his tongue came out, his eye came off, and I kept pieces of him, for a little while.
What a terrible trick.
Yeah.
The pieces of the foam rubber.
Yeah, but it took time, but there was a time when I remember first getting that foam snake.
It really is amazing that as a kid you had no interest in this.
I'm talking
repelled.
I repelled the stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you said, it was like that life-changing moment, where just something had such an impact on you at a particular point.
But I'd like to tack on a interesting point or little note to the Blackstone story where my two worlds collided one day. In between my music and magic career, I got in the auction business and became an auctioneer working for we were talking about dinner. I worked for Bottoms and Butterfields, which was Butterfield and Butterfield in the entertainment memorabilia department. And I fell into the cataloging position where I was coming across all these great items that had been in TV and film and costumes and ephemera and scripts and all this great stuff. From that, I became an auctioneer. And 4 years into my life in the auction business, I was hired as an auctioneer to work a very interesting auction, and it was a split catalog. Sometimes auction catalogs are split. Where
yes.
If the first half is one
thing,
collection and the second is the other. And this collection started off with the Blackstone collection, and it ended with Forrest Ackerman.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and you were the auctioneer for this?
Auctioneer.
Oh my God.
Whoa. So I had to, obviously attend the previews and look at all the estimates and talk with the consigners. And it was a Gay Blackstone, which was Harry Jr.'s wife. Harry died very young. I think he was in his 40s.
No, 62 or something.
Harry Jr. was 62?
Yeah.
Is that right?
But still, that's still young.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Please make that be young.
Yeah, exactly. I thought he was younger. But because he definitely had dark hair and he had that rich, he had that very robust voice. And of course the goatee and everything. So the first half we sold the costumes. There was the purple jumpsuits and many of the costumes that were worn on the stages and that. And the second half was all this Forey Ackerman stuff. So it was great. There's like a Dracula cape in there, and I just some stuff that he had collected. Some of the maquettes from the films we talked about, and it's really fascinating and super cool.
What I would like to know is you did these auctions. You were an auctioneer. Now, when you say auctioneer, were you able to do the auctioneer speak?
Yes. Well, and let me clarify. There's two types of auctioneer speak. There is gallery style, and that's the kind of auctioneers that you would hear at Christie's or Sotheby's or any art gallery.
Profiles in history.
Mm-hmm. Profiles in history, exactly. It's a swift, increasing increment tempo that moves very quickly. Yeah. And you can sell 100 lots in an hour, but you always basically know where the auctioneer is. Okay. And then there's cattle auctioneers. And those people sound like they're speaking in tongues. Yes. And they sound a little crazy and a little cuckoo. Yes. Right. That is not something I do.
Yeah, I haven't been to those.
I do gallery style. Yeah. And even at a gallery style auction, you can hear it moves very quickly.
Oh, yes. Right.
And so, and the idea is that you want to keep people engaged, and you throw in bits of comedy here and there, and especially at charity auctions, which is primarily what I do these days. I'll maybe do 5 or 7 a year for charities or private events where I'll go out and raise money for them. And the comedy drives it because people laugh and they're off guard, and then suddenly it's like, hey, you look very cheap tonight. Come on, just raise your paddle. So you can sort of like, I know you've got the money, Matt. Look at all this stuff. Come on.
That's where the money went.
Put it on the shelf. You make a little more room. Yeah, so you kind of like you jab the people a little bit, and it's that's how that works.
I don't even understand where that other type of auctioneering came from. That speak
cattle.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
It's
know.
gotta be I'm sure there's a specific history to it.
Like, I don't know. What are you saying?
Maybe it came from cattle auctions.
I mean,
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
just some guy.
That's a
started
very
doing it that
good-
way.
Well,
It's a very good theory,
Funny
James.
thing is, I've been in so many gallery auctions, and I'm always engaged. I'm waiting for that item to come up that I want to bid on, and it's been very rare when I would actually get a winning bid. And it's like I have my max bid, and then it always seems to surpass my max bid and go farther when I want to. And, that's what it seems like all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's okay though to not be like if you're bidding against Guillermo del Toro
or
and
Kirk Hammett,
then you're outgunned.
Which has happened.
It's okay. Yeah.
Right,
Well,
right.
you lost
to me, yes,
You lost
several
but
times.
But so it's okay. What bothers me is when I'm on eBay and there's something that nobody's bidding on. And then I put the bid in and one other person at the very last minute just bids over me. One other person. And if
That's me.
I know it probably is. It probably is.
And you know what else? When that's happened, and not only when it ends, and I see that someone has outbid me, it's almost as if I hear inside my mind a little ha ha, and it just makes my blood crawl.
I hear ha-has all the time. That's half my life. Really.
Yeah, we're, eBay I think is our Vegas around here.
Really,
Yeah.
Well, getting back to magicians.
Magic?
Yes. Rob, I want to ask you, we've talked about, Doug Henning in the 70s, Penn and Teller, how they kind of change things. Is there a next big thing or a next style do you see this happening? I mean, what
Underwater
is the state
or-
of magicians now? And
I'm a terrible person to ask because I try to remove myself from what's happening in magic. So much of it I don't like that
Really?
I
Okay,
don't feel
right.
like I have anything positive or interesting to say because I repel it. It makes me a little nauseous.
really, okay.
Yeah, there's a very generic style, comedy style magician who feels similar to a generic stand-up comic who's just performing magic,
Right.
and then I have no interest in that and really no tolerance for it. It's repetitive. There's nothing new added to the art. So I tend to just shut myself into a very small corner and make my show Other Side with Zabrecky, where I can explore creativity and play around with creative ideas and push myself to go into realms that I don't even know exist.
Right.
And I can't be successful doing that if I'm paying attention to any sort of
That's true.
trends.
It's probably healthy psychologically to do that.
Do you hear that, Larry?
Yeah, well, I was thinking,
Do your own thing. Worry about your own thing. Don't worry so much about other people.
Oh, but it's hard sometimes.
It is hard, Larry. It's so hard. Yeah, and of course, you always compare yourself to others. And you're like, well,
Always.
if only I could have the success of that person, then I could be able to do this. And that's something that I've learned, not from the arts, from other areas of life, but yeah, I try not to compare myself to others and just live my little tunnel and make a living doing it.
But see, you're in a unique tunnel, though. I mean, some of these big guys now, whether it's like Chris
That should
Angel
be the
or
name
David
of your book.
Blaine,
Unique Tunnel.
No, but your act, you're not Chris Angel, you're not David Blaine. You are completely unique. You are very special, and I really enjoy watching your performance.
We all instantly fell in love with
Yeah,
it.
it's kind of a perfect
Thanks a
fit
lot.
for us.
Oh man, well likewise, this has been really fun.
I want to make sure to ask you though about a film that I believe is coming out very soon. This is a horror film called HANUKKAH.
Yes.
Please tell me about this. This looks the
goodness.
cast looks amazing. Tell me about this.
Yeah. So my good friend Evan McGarr, who was really tight with Forrest Ackerman in that world and helps kind of with the Famous Monsters world as it currently lives, whatever state it is. I think there's a magazine that still comes out.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Joe Mo. I don't know if you guys know Joe.
Oh, yeah. We've had him on the show.
friend of the
Oh,
show.
we love
Mass-
him. We love him.
So nothing not to love about Joe.
Yeah.
He's so great. And Evan and Joe are been really tight. And Evan was putting on horror conventions called Mad Monster. That's his.
Yes,
Right,
Mad
yeah,
Monster
yes,
Party.
yes.
Yeah.
And he's hired me for the past 5 years, every couple years, to come out and perform at these things. The Zabrecky
awesome.
Hour goes over great. And Evan's always like, I'm going to put you in something. I'm writing something for you. At one point, I'm going to get you in something. So
And didn't he do a film called House of the Wolfman?
he did. He did a recreation with Lon Chaney Jr.'s son. or
Right,
something.
right.
Yeah.
Ron Chaney.
Ron Chaney.
Ron Chaney.
Right.
This is great. He did a really nice job with period and
Right,
looked
making
really-
it like a 40s Universal.
So Evan calls me a few months ago and he says, "You won't believe this. I'm doing a Jewish slasher film. I got PJ Souls and yeah, right.
I know we got Sid Haig, Caroline Williams from Texas Chainsaw 2.
Wow.
Yeah, killer cast, and of course the icing on the cake is the great Dick Miller.
Oh, yes.
is
Just recently passed away.
sadly yesterday.
One of the best character actors.
I love him. Bucket of Blood, underrated horror comedy.
You couldn't like when we were reading Fangoria in the 80s, like every issue of Fangoria, he was like the favorite uncle.
Yes,
Because that was when he was doing all the Joe Dante movies.
And doesn't he play his character is Walter Paisley?
Walter Paisley.
He's played that
Bucket of
character
Blood.
many times. I mean, that name.
I think Bucket of Blood was the origin of Walter Paisley. I think that's my
Yes,
first.
yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So this was 2 months ago. We shoot a big surprise in a temple in Whittier, and funny story attached to it. The character that I'm playing in this film, I have a scene with Dick Miller, but in the follow up to this. HANUKKAH is the next slasher film that's going to be coming out sometime next year. We're filming it this year. Doesn't wear a wedding ring. So I get to the set and I take my wedding ring off and I put it, I think, in my pocket. And I have this great day shooting with Dick Miller. Life is good. We have a lot of fun. He looks at me and says, "You got a great face." That's what he said. That's what he said to me. I thought, "That was so
For
nice."
Dick Miller to say that? to you?
And I'm like,
awesome.
man, this guy is what you to forget it. And he's amazing, and his wife is there, and he's up there in
he's
nice.
and he has a big old monologue, and his wife, who was lovely, she brought her own kind of apple box and had cards. I think they threw a lot of dialogue in the last minute, and I think his memory wasn't what it was. Saying Bucket of Blood.
Yeah.
So she's got cards, but the way that she's moving them, his eyeline he gets to keep his eyeline in one place, and she's just doing like this expert teleprompting shit, and it's like she's got this system. I'm like, what? Like, what are you doing? It was so good. And it was so lovely to see that like they were just such a killer couple. And he's like, "I've been married to this woman for 60 years. We live in Toluca Lake," and he was telling me all this. We had this really great chat. And I remember just driving away going, "Man, that was so cool." Being a fan of Dick Miller and just doing the slasher film. I get home and I'm like, "Oh, where's my wedding ring? Oh man, I can't find it. And so I drive back to Whittier. And I retrace my steps, and I went in the temple with my flashlight, and I've lost. And as you can see, I'm not wearing one now. And I lost my wedding ring on the shoot that day. So for 2 weeks, I get a fake little cheap ring at the dime store. I put it over where I normally wear my ring until I can get the courage to tell my wife that I lost my wedding ring.
Right.
And finally, I'm like, "Man, this thing's so annoying." I chucked it. I'm like, "Tommy, got some news for you," and she was an angel about it and didn't care that my wedding ring's gone. So now I wear no wedding ring, at least for now. And that was my big story of losing my wedding ring and like getting to hang with Dick Miller for a day. So the scene it's in the movie and it'll be coming out this year. And then in the sequel to this, there's this slasher, the kind of rabbi killer, and I'm going after this guy and I'm going to find him and torture him.
Wow.
Now, is the movie kind of playful? Is it a straightforward, or is it like an homage? Is it a parody? I mean,
I would say it's pretty straightforward, but it's got some funny moments to it. There's a trailer for HANUKKAH that you can watch.
The tagline for it is fantastic, which is a Torah-fying new tale of horror.
That's good. I'm
awesome.
there. I'm there.
You watch the trailer and you're like, at first you're like, are they fucking with me? Is this? And then there's like a little line there where you're like, oh. So there's this kind of thing where they take you down the trail and then it's a left turn.
Cool.
It's comedic in a stand against evil kind of way.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect.
It's that kind of fun, I would say.
Awesome.
So you had been married how long before you lost this ring? This is the original
20
ring,
years.
right? 20 years. When I got married, I went through like 4 rings immediately. Now I don't have one on right now because it's in my pocket.
or is it?
Or is it?
Oh.
How did you lose them all?
Because the first one I got, first of all, I don't like wearing rings. I don't like wearing jewelry at all. And so having it on, like if I would wash my hands and there'd be a little bit of soap under the ring, it would drive me crazy.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I didn't know
It
this.
drives
I
me
understand.
Really?
nuts. So, and I had the first one I got was like this big titanium one, and it was like clunk, so heavy and uncomfortable. And so I took it off once. And then I went back to the bathroom, remember that it was gone 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
Went back, gone. I get another one. Similar things keep happening to where my wife is cool about it every time. And now I've had one since like the third one I lost that I've managed to hold on to. You know why? Because it's the thinnest of wedding rings that you could possibly get. Little sterling silver, tiny little width, and that I don't take off as many times.
Right.
But yeah, so no, I got in trouble immediately with the ring thing.
Yeah. Betcha.
But we got two winners.
Yes.
Don't hold it over your head.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Right.
You could always say it was like part of your little magic trick. I'm gonna watch it disappear.
Yeah.
Watch our vows
Watch
disappear.
Watch a relationship disappear.
Now, before we end this thing, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but we have been talking about magic. You are a magician. Is there a possible trick that you could do audio-wise that would astound and please our listeners?
Is there a trick that I could do audio-wise that would astound listeners? Yes, but I won't perform it.
That's it. I would expect nothing less from the
Thank
great
you for- But
Zabrecky.
thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So the last thing I wanted to ask Great Zabrecky is
Zabrecky? How much time have we spent together? Zabrecky.
Zabrecky.
He means nothing to you.
3 drinks in.
Yeah. now I like a good toy. You know.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
you're
You
mentioned that with your Princess Leia.
you're Mr. Magician here.
Yeah.
There are some great magic toys out there. Do you have any magic toys of your own?
I do.
Like what?
Well, I have an original wrapping hand by a company called Thayer, which was a premier company in the probably teens and 20s, up into the 30s, and still make stuff today, just not like the quality that they made back then. But a wrapping hand was a hand-carved wooden hand that was placed on a table, and before there was a lot of technology,
Sure.
the hand was placed in the seance room. You would say, we're going to use this hand as our guide in the spirit world, and it would rap once for yes, twice for no. So you could ask the hand questions, the spirits questions, and they would answer through the hand. So I have a wrapping hand that is
How old?
20s. It's
Wow.
yeah, beautifully hand carved, and you'll see it in upcoming episodes of Other Side with Zabrecky.
okay,
It
cool.
shows up in some of the episodes. So yeah,
Is it the same potato in every episode?
well, good question. Good question. No, it's not. They're different potatoes.
Well, there's a great toy that was made in the 50s. There's one Mickey the Magician, which it's a battery operated from 1950. And you press the little button, and it's like a full size Mickey, and he has like a magic hat, and he places it over a table, and he lifts that hat up, and there's a little rabbit, and then he takes it away, and then he puts the hat down, and then the rabbit is gone. It's a great little magic trick, and the funny thing is, it was really successful. The toy company also made the magical fox.
That's
or
cool.
Mr. Fox the Magician, and it has the same type of thing, but there were 2 versions. One, there's a little rabbit. The second version is it blows bubbles. Now, the problem with the battery-operated toy that blew bubbles is what happens when metal touches liquid stuff? It rusts. So if you put the soap solution, the toy would blow bubbles, but over a period of time, the little coil would deteriorate or rust.
I don't want the bubbles. I like the rabbit.
The rabbit
Yeah.
one. But this
Classic.
Is but this is a
Corn
great.
bubbles in
No.
the rabbit.
I can do that.
Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Can I say what a fascinating cover? The battery toys. Look at this.
This is the Brian
Yeah.
Moran book. It's a beautiful book. The Modern Automata. It's all about battery operated toys.
Who doesn't love a talking tree too?
No.
That looks like magic.
I love that.
And this has been so great. We've talked about so many. There are many other movies that we haven't talked about, and other magicians and stuff. So hopefully, maybe
We'll have you back.
We'll have you
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Come back.
Take another round of this. But this has been such a great, fun, magical.
I just want to hang
journey.
with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Like I say, the pleasure has been all mine, and I've got a list of viewing materials. Thank you. Thanks to all
sure,
of you.
yeah.
So
we can always recommend some movies for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I got a great list here going. So thanks for having me. It's really
Totally.
cool.
Thank you.
Well, this has been great.
Yes, it has.
Indeed.
And we could go on and on.
But what we need to know is, do you have anything that you would like to plug? Something coming up that we haven't discussed, maybe, that you would like to tell our listeners about?
Or where we can find you.
I mean, I would say I keep things fresh on Instagram, Rob Zabrecky there. But the things that I'm working on that are really coming from my heart are the Other Side with Zabrecky, which is a show you can find on YouTube.
Genius.
Every meaningful way we have to put the show up, meaning someone's birthday or death day, or the right day for a seance. On President's Day, we're gonna have Nancy Reagan, I think, is coming up. Not to brag.
How many episodes have you had?
13.
So far?
We got 13 from the first season, so you can look forward to 13 of those in the next, probably, say, year. And then I'm also on a show called Strange Angel, which is the story of Jack Parsons.
That looks
Yes.
really
If
interesting.
you guys know the story, the great Jack Parsons, the rocket scientist who blew himself up right here in Pasadena, but he was friends with L. Ron Hubbard and studied the works of Aleister Crowley.
That's
which
right,
is-
yeah.
This is sort of this world in a way. But really cool show, and I play my magic character, oddly called the Minder, and I was on 5 of the 10 episodes, and I think I'll do a few more on this one. So Strange Angels, it's like a CBS show. Those are the 2 things that I always I feel I'm pretty proud of and happy to.
I've been wanting to watch that show, and now I have yet even a better reason to watch
Well, the
it.
Aleister Crowley's coming in on 2nd season, and then you can look for a very young pre-Scientology L. Ron Hubbard, because he was friends with L. Ron Hubbard
That's
as well.
right.
It's
Wow.
so
Yeah.
trippy. And if you're from LA or into LA stuff, it's a fascinating story, because Jack Parsons was right here in Pasadena and basically came up with rocket science, was making rockets to go to the moon, and was whacked out of his mind on meth and God knows what else. And so it's
Where the best ideas come from.
so it's just it hits you on every level. It's just, it's
Just another weekend here in Van Nuys.
yes,
Awesome.
exactly. So anyway, there you go.
Well, I'd like to give a toast.
Let's give a toast,
to our
shall we?
wonderful magician.
All right.
To the great Zabrecky.
Time for a listener shout out.
Shut up!
Guys, we got 2, not 1, but 2 new iTunes reviews.
Hey!
They listen to me.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you got a strong fan base.
The first comes from a longtime listener, Rockford J.
Rockford J.
He
we love
writes,
that guy.
Yeah, Rockford writes, a show that lives up to its name. Monster Party combines a loving look at all things monsterly with the quirky perspective of the 4 co-hosts, James Gonis, Matt Weinhold, Larry Strothe, and Sean Sheridan.
Cool. They mentioned James first, of course.
Yes.
Quirky?
Oddball.
Part interview, part retrospective, part review, and part comedy, Monster Party is consistently fun and a show I look forward to listening to, especially when Larry gets mad at a guest or has his trademark seizures of nerd rage and apoplexy.
Whoa, wait
you go.
Wait a minute.
He's saying he likes
wait,
you.
wait.
I know.
go,
Wait, do
Rockford.
I get
love it.
angry at guests?
No.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I don't
Shut
get
up.
angry
Yeah, you
again.
do.
I get angry.
Yes.
Angry?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I just
How
bring.
divorced from reality are you?
Well, I thought it was like I bring up a new perspective or something.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if I-
Perspective of anger.
Yeah. You leap across the table. Your opinions hit people like a Tex Avery eyeball.
Or a pie in the face of a clown.
Oh, yeah.
Is that one of the things that they said?
No.
Did you just make that up?
I did.
Touche.
The
Well,
second
That's awesome.
He's on a roll.
The second review comes from David Lopez from Rio Hondo, Texas.
David Lopez.
David
Right.
Lopez.
David writes, a happy monster kid. Hey guys, I just wanted to say that you all do such a great job. Every podcast provides a place so that this monster kid can feel like he has a place to call home.
Cool.
Keep up the great work. P.S. Is it bad that my favorite part of the podcast is when Larry gets excited and says, ooh, ooh, ooh?
See, that's 2.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I do that.
Seriously, thanks for starting this monster party.
Can I just, I would
right.
like to chime in now.
Well, I
and
just
say,
I can't help it. I'm
listeners,
excited.
we're sorry that Sean and James and I aren't really pulling our weight. We're gonna present a separate podcast called the Ooh Apoplectic Larry Comedy Fun Time Hour.
All right. Now that's
Yeah,
now
you're changing it to that.
for someone who thinks, oh, it's not authentic. No, that is real. I mean, I am.
we know.
No, everyone
real.
knows, and that's why. See, if you were faking it, somehow people would get it. You know, they would sense it psychically.
You can't fake that. You
No.
just can't,
True.
Mental illness cannot be manufactured.
Well, let's also remind our listeners that you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Monster Party TV. Our Twitter handle at Monster Party HQ. Instagram is also Monster Party HQ. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, please take a moment and, like these fans just did, please take a moment and write a review. We would love to hear from you, and chances are we will read it on the air.
Yes, and my name is Matt Weinhold. We also have SHAWN Sheridan and James GONIS.
Thank you. And Monster Party swag is available on our eBay store, which is Monster Party Store. That's easy to remember. And let's also remind everyone we will be at the Monsterpalooza convention in Pasadena. In just a couple
That's gonna
months
be
in
good.
April, we will have our own booth once again. Please buy your plane
Taking over the
tickets.
convention.
Yeah. Alienating every booth around us.
Yeah, who will we piss off this year?
You know, look. I just want to make a point here.
Causing a disturbance in the Phantom Ballroom.
No, see, look. I thought we're doing a good thing. We're live on the show, and we're inviting people who are close by to come on the show and talk about their wares or their things that they're making or their books or something. So I don't see how we could irritate people.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are at a convention.
Yeah, I mean, or don't you
we had
want
a lot of good traffic in our.
Don't you want to rub elbows with monster fans and monster people and let other people know about what it is that you're doing? You don't want to just sit at a table and
If you're sitting next to us at Monsterpalooza, don't fight us. Embrace us.
Yeah, go with the
Revel
flow.
in us.
Join the party.
Right, exactly.
the monster party. Thanks, James.
Hey, anytime, Larry.
And I'm sure you guys remember our wonderful unpaid Monster Party intern, Kevin Smith.
Oh, yes,
And
yeah.
the lovely Michelle Olivier. Well,
Yes.
as I mentioned last time, they have created a fabulous toy company called Sea Demon Vinyl Toys.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
great stuff.
Yes, they do have great stuff. He's come out with 2 figures. I would suggest listeners check out Sea Demon Vinyl on Facebook, and it'll take you to their website, and you can check out their cool toys that they have for sale. And these are special items. They're not going to be lasting forever, okay? And I understand he's working on another one, so I can't wait to see what he's got. But they're really cool, twisted, freaky vinyl toys.
Amazing detail.
Yes.
But I also want to give a special thanks to our sponsors at Creature Features. Yay! Creature Features. Now, Creature Features, they're still selling a bunch of stuff on eBay. If you go to the Creature Features website, that's creaturefeatures.com, it'll give information about the stuff that they're putting on, the various shows that are going to be happening, but also there's a box where you can click on it. It'll take you directly to their eBay page, and you'll see all the amazing stuff that they have. They have books and signed CDs by composers and toys and models, all kinds of stuff. So definitely check out creaturefeatures.com.
Cool.
Also want to give a special shout out to our friends at Time Tunnel Toys. Time Tunnel Toys, located at 1583 Meridian Avenue in San Jose, California. And Joe and Sharon have an amazing store filled with all kinds of fantastic vintage toys, like Star Wars figures and magic kits and black velvet paintings, comic books, records. It's such a great place. But if you go to their website, Time Tunnel Toys, it'll also give you information about their antique toy show called the San Jose Super Toy Comic and Collectible Show. It happens every 4 months. Go to their website. It'll give you all the information of their latest upcoming toy show.
On that note, I am Weinhold the Magnificent.
I am Sheridan the Indescribable.
I'm the great Larry Stone.
And I'm the amazing Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Put a little magic in your life. And now, gentlemen, let us conjure the spirits. Vodka. Ready to go?
Ready?
Let's do it.
How many pages of notes do you have?
Hey, you know what? I'm talking about the world of magic. The world.
Your level sound there good?
Well, I'm not,
beautiful.
I decided not to go headphones.
Oh, yeah. Great.
to,
No,
yeah.
you sound great.
Great.
You sound
I feel
excellent.
because I feel great.
You
see, that's
you
what's
look
going on
great.
here. Well, if I know that,
And did James say
only in this room though, with all this stuff.
yes?
I know, right? It brings a sparkle to your eye that I didn't notice earlier in
Out
the doorway.
there, yeah. I'm just the next. I'm just the man next
But
door.
here, it's like, there's a patina. It's very Star Trek love interest.
Do you only have a couple? Do you only have a couple notes, Sean?
I have.
Yeah.
I have 2 pages
Okay.
of notes.
You have two. Oh.
Okay. Argue on the air. Let's go. Let's do this.
Wait, James, did you bring notes?
Yes, he did.
Are you serious?
Oh,
He's got 'em in-
James.
I know because you're going to be talking a lot.
He
on this
knows
show,
magic.
right?
As usual.
He knows magic.
No, this is going to be unusual.
Okay. All right.
The last thing.
Yes. Yes.
Did James mention that we'll be taking photos?
He did.
Yes, he did.
All right.
Did you mention I'll be taking nude photos?
No.
He whispered that in my ear, and I
Very-
was wondering if that was for everyone or just me.
Very tasteful. Yeah.
No.
Unless you don't want,
People like me. I like to be liked.
Shit.
What's your
You
problem
forgot
now?
a page of notes?
No.
Jesus,
No,
Larry.
I-
This is unlike you.
I left my my cocktail. Can
Hurry up.
Can you give me 1 minute? Can you
Rob,
We're
you all right with
timing
this?
you. 1 minute, go.
Yes.
Are you on a
Let's-
time frame? You
No.
But still, but look.
never mind.
No,
You know what? I don't need
your
a
cocktail.
Go get it. Go get
Get
it.
your
Please, go
cocktail.
get it. Enjoy
Yeah.
This
it.
is a party. Come on.
Yeah. We can enjoy. I can look around. I can look at more
He's a
stuff.
professional, and so he has a right to be annoyed.
What's the story with Boris Karloff? Not a life mask, but the Frankenstein.
Did you get that?
Do you know G. Charles Wright?
Do I?
Oh, there you go. So G. Charles Wright and I were at Puzzle Zoo. I don't God, 8 years ago or something like that. No, more like 10. And we're in Puzzle Zoo, and he sees that glow in the dark Frankenstein head, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool! I wonder how much that is." And he asks, and it's $50. Like $50. I'm like, "Fuck!" And I was like, "Do you guys have another one?" Of course, the answer is always no. They go, "We have one more." Oh. And so, cut to G. Charles and I walking out of Puzzle Zoo. buddies. So yeah, that thing is a thing of beauty, and I
Yes,
love
it
anything glow in the dark.
Oh my God! Of course. And what's the coolest thing to glow in the dark is a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Bust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if I could do the thing where I could sort of modulate the light,
Oh.
so it's like the powering up. Yeah, I'm still working on that. But working on my marriage comes first sometimes. So yeah,
Which you're not doing right now.
Tell me about
because
that.
you're
Which
in
I'm
here
not
with all of
doing.
us. I would imagine this is a demerit somewhere on that. If I had to guess.
No. She's a good
yeah,
egg.
she
She's
is.
a good egg.
Very
Yeah?
supportive.
She
She
actually
likes-
went.
she likes this
This is
stuff."
your studio room. When we
Wow.
yeah.
You
I
married
didn't
the
know
right
she
person.
gave you this room.
Well, we worked it out together, but she was very encouraging. She went, "Oh yeah, I could see in the shelves
Yes.
and right."
Yeah, now you don't have to use the dining room anymore. Which
Yeah,
is
because that's what we used to do, and then that would get in her face.
Oh, but she loved it. She
yeah,
loved it.
she
would
loved
come
it,
home,
Larry.
she'd-
Yeah, she loved it. All right, let's start.
All right.
And now what I will do is I'm going to make us all disappear.
Wait a minute. Did we ask him yet if he has
Yeah.
anything?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Cut that out. Go do your.
Thank you,
Yes.
Larry.
You can cut that
I-
out and paste it at the end.
No, it's kind of a Matt. It's kind of a Matt thing. I'm sorry. You cut.
No,
cut.
no,
Yeah,
I don't care about.
No, don't. I want you to care.
I like what you did. It's just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Right,
okay.
right.
I'm sorry.
Don't we have to ask
Yes.
him after that?
Can you please do your thing? This has been great. Or should
That's
I?
your thing.
Okay. Here we go.
So now you're giving me your thing, and then I can't do my thing. I'm
Okay.
totally confused.
We've been doing this for 5 years, by the way, just so you know.
So there's 28 pages there, and there can only be one page that has tonight's thing, right?
Hey, can you just like take a clip from the last show or something and just
you mean this is the Tom Tunnel toys?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same
Creature
thing every
Fusions.
time, though, right?
Really? You've done this 178 times, and you can't.
178 times.
Yeah, 'cause you do
really?
it-
Do you know how many shows we've done?
Yeah, but you do it.
we've only done like
I
132.
know, but you do it in your
shows.
private life.
Yeah,
There's all the rehearsing.
I try to practice as best I can.
Bookmark.
Yeah.
Well, because we started so fast, and I wasn't ready. You guys just want to.
And time got a toy. They sell this and that and a bunch of big gym and.
Well, basically, it's like, okay, since there were 2 reviews and they had decided to make a point of saying something nice about me, and then you guys are all like, oh, let's rush Larry here. So.
No, that's not what we did. It is getting close to midnight.
Right.
That's all.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, what were you looking for in there? I am just curious.
My information.
Okay, and you found it?
Yeah.
Suddenly?
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. Anytime. In your own time.
Okay.
Did you just pull a Cindy Brady?
No, because when she looked at the camera, she froze. I didn't have that moment. I heard you. I just wanted to find my spot.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't freezing.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So on that note,
And I just want you to know, those 3, I made that go pretty quickly.
No, you were great.
Compared to
I love that. That was
previously.
great.
And you know what else? The other thing I just noticed is sometimes when I go through these and you guys are all blah, 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 just let me do it and look how fast we get through it.
But it's funnier sometimes the other way.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
It has maybe, but
But we can't do that every time.
No. I was listening
No,
to
I like the way you did this.
Okay.
But you were listening to what?
Oh shit. I was listening to the one where I was trying to talk about the Edel beer. And
those are great. Those are classic.
I'm trying to get through them.
Sure, like you're talking about biscuits and things. And...
Let me explain something to you, Sean. It's a product. I was trying to describe the wonderful thing about the aspect of these products, and you're all biscuits. But and then Matt's all, you should have said biscuits before. I love biscuits.
That's a spot on.
And foamy head.
Spot on
What's
impression.
that?
Wow.
Come on.
But what was funny about that was that you were clearly reading. That wasn't your copy that you wrote.
Well,
was
it was their information.
You were reading somebody else's
their information,
copy.
And I had to shorten it a little bit, but I wanted to put keywords.
It's
in
funny.
there.
It's funny when someone reads somebody else's copy and it doesn't sound like that. So you're like, and it has a flavor of it. Like now you've become somebody else. You're.
No, I'm still
for beer.
me. I'm still me. I'm like regular Joe who likes to drink a beer.
That's what you are. You're like a regular Joe. Good times. Okay.
So how we can do is like abracadabra.
I think you should do something like
Nice one, Sean.
no, but you should say abracadabra and I will make
Shazam!
and I'll make us all disappear or something like that.
All right. Oh, God.
Let's now the clock is ticking. Oh, let's all look at you now. Okay.
Wow. I'm
Hey,
finally getting
don't you
attention.
have something written down? No. I want to hear that review again. What was that? Quirky?
Oh, now he likes it. At first he was appalled. Now he's happy about it.
I'm kidding. I'm just
Okay. All right.
What was that second one though? It said I was what?
I like it when you go ooh and something else.
Yeah.
It gets excited and says, ooh, ooh, ooh.
And that
it's-
is
it's something.
and it's authentic enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's true.
They're not quoting me.
Sometimes, the funny, I will say this. I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Yeah.
This is part of the new leaf.
Oh,
And I just want to say to Matt, Matt, when we get together to record Monster Party, it's like it's our safe house.
It is, yes.
We
That's
can
That's true.
we can get excited or get angry.
Sure.
It's because
Bust
it's
each other's
safe.
balls
It's safe.
and yeah.
When we're
Right,
out
that's
in the
true.
real world, I can't. When some professional says, "Oh, and I really like Legend of Hell House," and I gotta just hold everything in to not go. Yeah. I gotta go.
Yeah, here you can do it.
Yeah, here I
right.
can do it. And yes, on the real world, sometimes because they're gonna think, oh boy, that guy's really strange, But here I can do it, and I feel like I'm with my buddies. We all get
Of course.
excited,
Yeah, right.
and it's our safe
our
world.
sanctuary.
We would not change a thing, Larry.
True.
And I
Absolutely. think
we all agree on that.
Yes.
We like you. We love you just the way you are.
Now get out.
So wait a minute, you like me just the way I am?
Yes.
So does that mean I shouldn't bother with the new leaf?
Okay, for you to not bother with the new leaf, that means there was a new leaf that was instated,
to begin with.
and that never happened.
Wait,
It's
for
a
the new
concept
year?
that you've been talking about.
Episode 2, you said you're
Yeah,
gonna have a
but
new
it's
leaf.
never. Nothing's ever
no.
happened.
It wasn't episode 2.
Okay, 12.
Yeah.
What was
out
the
of
new leaf
200.
even supposed to be?
Well, there were
He's gonna stop yelling at people. And going,
yeah, there were several
all
new
the things
leads.
that people apparently like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah, the stuff that makes our show entertaining, perhaps.
Yeah, look at
Okay,
get Mr. Show Saver over here.
No. I don't mean it. I don't
Wow.
mean it like
You know
that.
what?
I don't. No.
From now on, all my notes are going to be ooh, whoa.
I'm mad at you.
Yeah. Listen, Mr. Fill in the blank.
If you did that, people would say, "Oh, Matt's not being authentic. He's being a fake."
That's true.
Because that's not you.
No, it's not.
Although
I'm going to try it.
There is a show. There is a show when you start to say to someone that they're Mr. So-and-so and you're all, oh my God, now you've got me doing it. See, I started to rub off on you.
Yeah. And that's fun. That's like friends that
Yes.
we influence each other. That's a good thing.
The point being,
No new leaf. That's the point. There was no new leaf. Stop saying that. Stop saying that forever.
safe house.
Yes.
Not hell house, safe house.
The
Or Hell
Legend of
House.
Safe House. It could be Hell House. Yeah, you're right.
Safe help house.
The Legend of Safe House. Okay. How about a seance thing?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I'm now channeling the spirits of the end of the show. Something like that.
Or-
Bring a little magic in your life.
Or
And channel a spirit.
or
Channel a spirit. We're doing vodka.
Hey.
Hey.
oh, there's something there.
Something there, right?
There's something. There's something.
Spirit, vodka,
Oh, okay.
spirits.
Spirits. Yeah. And now let us.
Now
let us all channel the
now let
spirits.
us all channel the spirits. And then clink.
A vodka.
Vodka. Some just go vodka.
Or channel the spirits and then clink. We clink the glasses.
Delicious. That sounds obscene.
It is a little.
I do porn forward.
But no, I think we should clean glasses.
No, too much. Warn me.
I think.
Classic.
No, I think clean glasses. But then I think someone just should say something like, booze always satisfies," just something.
Let's try one. So I'll say magic at first.
Say, put a little magic in your life, and now, gentlemen, let us channel the spirit, something like that. Like you take a pause, and then like say,
Join
now you're
hands.
starting the seance. Yeah.
All right. Let's see if we can do this. All right. Okay. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
And put a little.
That's a little Irish.
Bring some of the little people.